And g'day, battlers, and welcome to the Factions World Championships, the last ever Silph Arena Factions World Championships. I'm PvP Steve, joined by two lovely gentlemen to my right, Trainer M and Adelian. I mean, guys, how's it going? This is it. This is the end.
It's it.
It's a sad time. It's a sad time actually, because I have enjoyed Factions so much. I've made so many good friends, some of which I've then subsequently met in person, and it's really heartbreaking to see this will be the last one. But we are going to go out on a high and crown our final Silph Factions World Champion. So I'm super hyped for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had the Silph Arena World Championship on the weekend just gone. We saw Wadaj going an absolute tear through the losers bracket. I mean, dude, literally lost round one and then W all the way along. Like an absolutely insane run. I hope that everyone got to catch that. And if you haven't, do go back and watch the VOD on the Silph Arena Twitch channel, because that is an insane level of, I mean, and again, he beat 3 out of 4 continental world champions. He beat last year's world champion. He beat the global rank #1 and #2 on the Silph leaderboard, and only had that one loss to the 4th of 4 continental champions as well. It was cracked. Exactly.
Amazing.
Really, it's not just that. He's also had a lot of success on the official circuit of Pokemon Go as well. So I think going into the World Championships, which are only happening maybe just like what two weeks away, give or take. I'm losing, or maybe 3. I'm like, I need to check my diary because I need to make sure I block off that weekend to watch everything. But that he's going in with a lot of accolades there, so we'll see who else can add to their accolades. Maybe there's a couple of potential Worlds invitees in these 2 factions. I'm sure there are, and maybe they're looking to make a statement right before those World Championships take place.
Oh, absolutely. I know that one person that is on one of these factions, Dialap, was definitely looking for that potential triple world champion title with the arena, factions, and play Pokemon. Still has the double to play for, so we'll see how it all comes out. But I should mention that, I mean, we have the 2 teams above our heads. Today we're going to be seeing the Elite TMs take on the Metal Raptors. Elite TMs from North America and the Metal Raptors coming in representing the APAC region, the long slept on region that I'm purely here just to be that representation to shout out the APAC region. But a quick little sort of info, or I guess briefing as to who these teams are. Elite TMs have essentially been one of the sort of most dominant teams in NA that have definitely got a lot of accolades. They won the first, their first. They came a little bit late into factions. Then they won the North American qualifiers. Then they won the open tier. Then they won the bronze tier. Then they won the platinum tier, and then ended up coming second in diamond tier, which, you know, for them feels like a failure after so many wins, but second in diamond tier is still a huge deal, and got them into the emerald tier, where I believe in their first emerald cycle, they like barely lost out on the first place. They came second by, I think it was 2 game wins. So if they'd sort of won 2 more single battles across their across the cycle in that emerald tier, they might have been the factions champion in emerald tier there as well. And so they've sort of come up through really well through the World Championships and have ended up in this final 2 alongside the Metal Raptors, who don't have the same like win fighting their way up through the cycle. The Metal Raptors were actually a faction that started from the very beginning of factions, being first seeded into the diamond tier. So from the sort of get-go, they were at that sort of top level, because back then there was no emerald tier, the highest tier. Diamond tier was the top. So the Metal Raptors were fighting at the top of APAC, where there was definitely a lot of Japanese dominance. So they sort of like, they never won a cycle, I believe, but they were always sort of in that top half, in the upper echelon of every single bout. And they came along, and I think that they were very much slept on alongside the rest of the APAC region, where there was a factions pick'em, where people sort of voted for who they thought they were going to win out of the group stage, where I believe there was 4 times 8, 32 different teams, factions still in. Only 3.8% of people predicted that the Metal Raptors would win their group. You know who else was in that group? The Elite TMs, who had a little bit of a higher chance to win that bout. But with an 11-10 result, Metal Raptors were able to take out the Elite TMs and win their group stage. So there's a little bit of a grudge match here where Elite TMs, they've got all these accolades and they need to prove that NA is going to be able to take it out and get that revenge against the Metal Raptors, who have beaten them once before. So I don't know, guys. Are you keen? Are you excited?
I'm nervous, actually. Like, I can feel it in my chest. I really want to see who did it. I really want to see who did it.
Well, we've only got 7 bouts. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the World Championship format, there are going to be sets of 5 battles instead of sets of 3. But let's take a look at sort of the order of the battles that we're going to be watching today. This is the order that they were played. So we're essentially going to be watching this back live. These battles have been played over the last couple of days, so these are not being played live, but we're playing them in the same order. So to explain sort of what the metas are, first off, we have the Pandemonium battlefield, which is potentially one of the most complicated metas to explain in Silph Arena history, only if you wanted to go into the details. The really simple, broad overview is that it is essentially an evolving whitelist and ban list situation. So each week there are a certain number of Pokemon that are allowed and a certain number of Pokemon that are banned. And every single week of factions, that list has changed. They've added Pokemon or they've removed Pokemon. I believe even Counter Metacham was removed at one stage. They banned the moveset counter. So there's lots of wacky things going on there. And I think that it's probably best for when we get to those battles that we just focus on the teams in front of us rather than the meta as a whole, because it can get a little bit complicated. The second bout is going to be the Ultra League, which is going to be a Show 8 Block 2 Ban 2 format, which is sort of brand new for Silph, where not only do you have 8 Pokemon and you can each ban 2 of the others to bring you both down to 6, but you also have 2 Pokemon that are unbannable, essentially. So whatever Pokemon you put in the first 2 slots, the opponents cannot ban. And sort of back 6. Next up, we have the Echo Field. Echo Field is a very similar meta to the Silph Arena World Championships, where it is a slot-based meta where each slot is based on some of the older metas from Silph factions. So slots 1 and 2 are based on Pokemon that were really strong in the Floating City and Atlantis metas. Slot 3 and 4 from Dungeon, Comet, and Cave. Slot 5 and 6 from Alchemy, Colony, and Primeval. And slot 7 and 8 from Ember, Vanguard, and Arcana. And again, it is a Show 8 Ban 2, but not the Block 2 format. The other two, we've got Great League is a classic. It is also a Show 8 Block 2 Ban 2. And then we have Master League, which is Show 6 without bans, but does have sort of a tier-based point system. And that is going to be the battle to close us off for today. But with that said, I mean, that's sort of the plan. We've got plenty of really, really strong battles to sort of go through today. I don't know. There's a lot of really strong battles. I think we're all going to be pretty excited as we go on through. So I don't know. What say you guys? Should we get into it? Have I rambled for long enough?
Yeah, let's get straight into it. Let's see what happens.
All right. Well, I will say we're not going to kick me off too soon because first up is going to be me and Rem taking us into some Pandemonium. So, I mean, Rem, let's get into it.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Okay, so what we're going to have in the very first matchup is a Shady Equation versus Thunder Cypher in the Pandemonium field. Again, this is one that the meta, it's probably just best not to focus on it and just take a look at the Pokemon that we are seeing on the 2 different teams. Shady Equation is going to be running a Greedent, a Metacham, a Berserker, a Jellicent, a Dedenne, and a Frostlass, while Thunder Cypher from the Metal Raptors side is going to be running Frostlass, Metacham, Raining Castform, Dedenne, Berserker, and Gliscor. And there were definitely a lot of names that sort of came up twice there between the two. I believe actually this is also just a fun fact about these factions, is that when they played the first time, they sort of had their matchups. The Metal Raptors have kept all of their players in the exact same spots going into this second bout. But the Elite TMs swapped up all but one. There was only one matchup that they wanted to keep the same. Everyone else is shuffled all over. So this is going to be mostly brand new matchups. But sort of just thinking about those teams, they're very similar. They both have a Metacham, they both have a Jellicent, they both have a Dedenne, and they both have a Berserker. But Rem, what are you sort of seeing on those two teams straight away?
All right, I already see like a Shady Equation having double ghosts, which is always a broken core. Like no matter what, in every show 6 format, double ghost is very safe unless the opponent has a normal type or a strong dark type on their team, or both of those typings. But on Thunder Cypher's team, I think I kind of like seeing like Gliscor there, just because Gliscor came with especially if he gets the boost, just becomes like a very driving force. If he gains enough momentum, it can just wipe teams. As long as Thunder Cypher doesn't run into Frost Ice with energy or Berserker with energy. I think it's gonna be too close to call here, but I'm pretty excited to see what happens with the matchups here.
Yeah, I really do love the Gliscor pick because you've got that Night Slash to fight back against the double Ghost strat, and then you also have that Earthquake that can hit the Dedenne and the Berserker. So definitely going to be really strong if you can run away with it a little bit. And I think that Thunder Cypher is sort of helped out by the rest of the bulk that is around as well in the Dedenne, in the Raining Cast form, in the Metacham. They can sort of potentially go a little bit unshielded so you can keep those shields. But I think we've been keeping people waiting long enough to get this stream going. So I think that we can probably jump straight in for the very first game to kick off the Factions World Championships between a Shady Equation and Thunder Cypher. And it looks like here we go. We have a Berserker mirror match in the lead. So it is going to be a little bit of a game of baits and shield calls and whether who wants to switch first, because it can definitely go either way here. And there's the swap into the Dedenne, and we have the counter swap from Frostlass.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we know that they both have even energy on Berserker before they swapped out. I think that Shady might be one Shadow Claw ahead, so that might get him at least an advantage later on. But we have Thunder Cypher already throwing the discharge. And let me see. Equation's going straight for the Avalanche here. Now, the Dene is still somewhat squishy, so even an Avalanche can just nearly take it out here. So choosing a no shield, look, like that amount of HP is very minimal, but getting off discharge with 1 HP and no shield from Shady here.
Thunder Cypher confident in the bulk of his Dedenne and able to take out the Frostlass on 1 HP. Now, I mean, a Shady Equation already has that slight energy advantage on the Berserker, so decides to bring in the Dedenne, getting a 3 Thundershock farm down, getting some energy here, but we see the Gliscor coming in from Thunder Cypher. And I mean, with still 2 shields up, this isn't the best scenario. I mean, look, we're going to see a player off come through from Gliscor. Dedenne is going to do a fair amount of damage with this player off, but Thunder Cypher at the last minute deciding to shield up there, wanting to keep that Gliscor alive. It's going to be a question of whether they go for the Night Slash or straight for the Earthquake, and we are seeing the Earthquake go straight away. Shady Equation needs to shield here if they want to keep this Dedenne around.
What a last second shield. Oh my goodness.
Keeping us sweating.
Now, Player Rough, it's still going to do a good amount of damage just because the Dene's attack is pretty high for a fairy. And let's see, Player Rough goes through here, does a good amount of damage to the Gliscor. And then we get an immediate swap back in for the Berserker. And let me see here. Thunder Cypher does get out the foul play. Do we shield the foul play? We do immediately.
Yeah, and I saw a Shady Equation went straight for the close combat. They all didn't go through, so now going to tap on that close combat. Now Thunder Cypher needs to decide if it is a bait back to try and get the shield back, and he doesn't call it. He lets the Berserker go. It means that this Gliscor is coming in, but Berserker still has energy, so needs the shield up here. Will be able to throw a Night Slash into this potentially, well, now debuffed Berserker after that first close combat, hoping that it might be enough, farming up more energy now comfortably. Thunder Cypher definitely doing some really nice counting to make sure that a Shady Equationist Berserker cannot get to another move. I think that this Night Slash will just be enough thanks to the debuff, and now it needs the Earthquake and gets the Earthquake onto Dedenne. What a fast-paced match.
That is amazing. The energy management there from Thunder Cypher was amazing that entire match.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, from the start, Shady Equation sort of got that little bit of energy advantage on the Berserker. And you might think that that could get a little... Oh, we're going straight into battle number 2 here. We have Dedenne from a Shady Equation going into Gliscor on the other side. And we've actually got a Jellicent swap into the back for a Shady Equation here. So going to presumably get a little bit of energy up on Dedenne, but does not want to get hit by that Earthquake. So again, Shady Equation is going to have to either try and make a swap or try and make a call as to whether Thunder Cypher is going to throw the Earthquake or not.
Right, and here we already see Cypher has kind of actually has 2 good answers for Jellicent. You can see that he has the Rainy Cast form and he has a Berserker in the back just in case. So I'm wondering if he's going to try and catch, or if he's just going to try and let the Gliscor go here.
Yeah, I mean, actually going for the discharge on this Gliscor. No catches in sight. Thunder Cypher decides to shield up. They want to get this Earthquake off onto the Dedenne, which I certainly would too. So it all makes sense there. Gonna have to make a decision here on Shady side whether they want to shield, and they know shield the Earthquake, demolishing that Dedenne, and now has to make a call here where they want the energy. Comes in Berserker and actually see a counter swap from Thunder Cypher. But again, Shady Equation is now at an energy advantage in this matchup, going for the bait this time from Shady Equation. Do we see the shield? And we do. Thunder Cypher falling for the bait, and now has to make a call what they want to throw back.
These mirror matches are always so stressful for every player, just because you always have to try and figure out, are they going to throw a foul play or the close combat? Could they, if they have enough energy, they can go, of course, back to back close combat, and it wouldn't even matter unless you're able to force CMP and you win CMP in that scenario.
Yeah, we do see now that there are shields down, Shady Equation going for that close combat. No CMPs even necessary thanks to that little bit of an energy advantage, but now there is a debuffed Berserker, Shady Equation tapping on that Jellicent, ready to get out regardless of what Thunder Cypher is going to be bringing in. Doesn't want to keep that debuff around, and we see that it is now going to be the Jellicent versus the Rainy Castform. Rainy Castform is packing that super effective Thunder, which is definitely going to hurt this Jellicent. Shadow Ball going to hurt as well, and it does have that same type attack bonus from Jellicent, but it's not going to be the same as a Thunder from Rainy Castform. This is not great for Shady Equation.
Not at all. And I'm assuming that Cypher's going to try and get a bit of energy after throwing the Thunder here, just so he can get a Weather Ball potentially, because the Berserker is almost energy dry, correct?
Yeah, it does. It just threw the close combat before I actually see a swap out. Oh my gosh. Has to hit a couple of bubbles on this Gliscor. Wanted to get a little bit of energy, but Jellicent's already so low rem that now there's just no chance for this Jellicent. And water going down as well.
That's perfect farm down to get to the Weather Ball. But is it going to be enough to take it out from here?
Oh, going for the Thunder.
And plus, the Rainy Castform is very low on HP, but getting to the Thunder instead of the Weather Ball, you probably didn't have to go with the Thunder there, but really well played.
Yeah, I'm not as I don't think I've ever been in the Rainy Castform versus Berserker matchup. However, I do feel like that Weather Ball may have been enough, because Berserker is quite a squishy Pokemon, right? So
Yep.
I feel like the Thunder, maybe it's just to make sure, sometimes in these factions matchups, you do not want to drop a single game, especially like this is the first games that are being played. You don't want that disadvantage early on. So they're sort of playing it safe and trying to go up for that Thunder, sort of confident enough in their counts that I know that Berserker's just not quite going to get there. Thanks to that one turn Water Gun, I am going to be able to get these moves off. But Thunder Cypher just really playing really clean.
And also the way that Cypher was playing with just Gliscor all around was very, very well managed. Like the energy was insane. Being able to force the Dedenne shield so often and basically lock Gliscor on Dedenne the entire time. Dedenne had nowhere to go pretty much.
Yeah, it was a little bit stuck for sure. And I think that, look, both players have a water type. And if they can land that Dedenne on the water type, they're looking really nice. Even though, Jellicent does have that Shadow Ball that can do a lot of neutral damage. When you get stuck on something that's doing super effective damage to Jellicent, it's just not in a great spot. And we saw that with that Rainy Castform being able to get the Thunder off. I think that, I don't see a whole lot of movement out of these picks. It feels like they're sort of the core picks that are going to be good against the opposing team. I am a little bit, wary about a potential Frost that's coming in, but with so much Berserker play, it sort of gets a little bit tricky, especially when there's also that Jellicent. But I think Thunder Cypher is sort of happy leaning into that Gliscor a little bit. They've got the ability to sort of run away with that energy advantage a little and also still do some big damage. But, look, with 5 games to play, I think a Shady Equation is really looking to start to claw these things back when he doesn't want to go 0-5 to start this thing off, when it is essentially first to 16. Or first to 18? 30, first to 18 it actually is. So you don't want to go 0-5 to get most of the way there already.
Definitely not.
But let's get into game 3 and see if a Shady Equation can figure out the equation to get himself back in. And we actually see the Frostlass coming in. Frostlass versus Dedenne from Shady Equation, and an insta swap out into that Berserker, and we see a Dedenne to come out to match it, which is a bit interesting now that Berserker has no way to do neutral damage, if not super effective damage, with either these foul play or close combat to Dedenne. Really hoping that it's sort of a lack of bulk is enough to carry Berserker through.
Basically, the only thing that you're able to do is just Shadow Claw down. Honestly, you might be able to 2-shield your Berserker and farm down with straight Shadow Claw to regain some kind of advantage, but we'll see what he decides to do here. No shield, and that takes out the Berserker. Well, like you said, super squishy. Super squishy.
Yeah, after that debuff, not going to take anything. But now this Dedenne is just sitting here as a little bit of a farm opportunity. Thunder Cypher bringing in their own Dedenne will be able to tank any of these moves from a Shady Equation. So can take this player off. It is going to hurt, but it is going to survive, and it will be able to take the Shady Equations down after farming up a little bit more energy before throwing this discharge for good measure. And Shady Equation just going to let it go down. Doesn't want to play those games where he's going to get farmed down afterwards.
Exactly. We do see only Rainy Castform in the back on Cypher's side, so I'm wondering if he's gonna try and get a shield with the Dene and then immediately swap out into Rainy Castform to try and see if he can maybe get a bit of energy, force the Frostlass to throw a move. Maybe Rainy Castform can clutch it, but it's kind of hard just because it is kind of slow with Water Gun. But we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I mean, now that Dedenne's been able to get a discharge onto that Frostlass, it's a little bit weaker and sort of puts it into a spot where maybe Rainy Castform can try and Water Gun down. We actually see the Berserker swap in instead. Going to be able to throw either these Water Balls, Weather Balls, or the Thunders here. Doesn't have to make the sort of last second call like we saw in the last game. Throws that Weather Ball and is going to be able to get a shield out of Shady Equation, who wants to keep this Berserker around and knows that that Frostlass is a little bit low in the back.
And I do think it's a bit rough from here, because if Cypher has the shield here, which he definitely does, it's going to be difficult because he can't even swap back out into Dedenne right now. He has to try and see if he can at least draw out the clock a little bit longer.
Yeah, he's going to shield up this Weather Ball to try and draw that clock, but it is still a fair way away. Throwing another close combat that'll definitely put a big hit onto this Rainy Castform with no shields remaining. Not quite enough to take it out, but that just means that Berserker gets a little bit of extra farm and is now getting really close to another move on this Frostlass, on this Dedenne, sorry, and he's going to be able to get there. Gets the close combat that will be enough to take out this fairy type Dedenne. I mean, Rem, most of the damage on this Dedenne has been from 2 close combats from a Berserker. I'm not sure how that's happened, but it has.
Like, the main thing is that even though Dedenne resists both close combat and foul play, it's still very, very low in defense. So even then, it can take at least about half, if not more, damage from Berserker's close combat. And that's where the pressure comes in, because Dedenne can't apply that much fast move pressure. It can only apply charge move pressure. So being able to grab shields off the Berserker, that's the only way that Dedenne can win that matchup safely.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And it's just sort of that identification of sort of how these games are going. I mean, look, these players are playing 5 games. They're learning about each other. In a set of 3, generally, you sort of don't have a lot of time to gather that information before you use it. But now they're sort of really getting comfortable in what the opponent likes to use. You know, they know who likes to use that Berserker, who likes to use that Dedenne. They recognize that these Pokemon are coming again and again, and it's just about countering those Pokemon and being able to get it in that spot and burning through those shields. I mean, to be honest, Ram, I thought that it was going to be an easier dub for Shady Equation a little bit earlier in the match, where he had that Frostlass sort of coming in with 2 shields ready to go, right? And it was sort of putting himself in a very scary position where he might have been able to farm down and then throw a bunch of energy onto Thunder. But we ended up seeing that swap out and then the counter swap out from both players, and you know, it still worked out in Shady Equation's favor, but he's Shadow Clawed it back somehow, Ref.
It definitely very, very difficult matchup, but let's see if we can get to the next one here.
All right, we'll jump into game 4. Thunder Cypher looking to extend the Metal Raptors lead. Shady Equation just looking to claw it back to a tied 2-2. And we have a Frostlass into Dedenne once more. Frostlass going to try and get a little bit more energy this time, but we see again that counter swap into Berserker. We see again the counter swap into Dedenne. We'll see if this plays out any different, or if we see the same close combat just trying to do a ton of damage with Thunder Cypher now at 2 close combats ready to go. But throwing, oh my gosh, throwing the foul play to a no shield, a quick no shield from Shady Equation as well. Confident in that foul play.
Very. And the fact that Dedenne actually has at least 2 sparks worth of energy. Is it Thundershock? Thundershock's worth of energy. So being able to get off the discharge here, look at the damage. And pretty much at this point, I think Dedenne can actually get off either another discharge to force a shield or just potentially farm down just because it does that much damage. But no shield in the close combat. How come?
Okay, I guess really wants to try and get that energy advantage on the Frostlass. We do see that Metacham sort of hanging out in the back as well. Berserker's defense has been debuffed, and now Frostlass coming in, getting this farm up. Wants to make sure that this Berserker goes down before a foul play comes off, but unfortunately not the case. So Shady Equation does have to burn a shield, but will be going into the next matchup with a lot of energy. And if anyone has ever played Frostlass before, they know that this is a scary spot to be in for Thunder Cypher.
Absolutely right. Frostlass's energy is super devastating. Even if you have 2 shields up, Frostlass baiting your shield and potentially getting off Shadow Ball, throwing a couple Powder Snows, and then another Shadow Ball, that can devastate your team comp entirely. So we'll see what happens here.
We do see a shield come up from Thunder Cypher, wanting to protect that, wanting to protect the Raining Castform. We see the swap out into the Metacham, who again, counter is banned. So Metacham is running Psycho Cut by the looks of it, and going for these Psychics onto the Dedenne, but a quick shield from Thunder Cypher, recognizing the potential of that big nuke of a move. And we get the 1 in 10 defense buff. Oh my gosh. That is devastating for Thunder Cypher.
So I think, Shady Equation shielding up here is very smart because now that it has the defense debuff from Psychic, which rarely gets off, I'm going to say in my experience, I really get that defense drop. But Psycho Cut and Psychic is super spammy, so being able to get this off, it's stab, plus the Dedenne is already super squishy, so it's probably going to take it out like, oh, it's very close, very close.
Oh, no way.
Oh my gosh, a double defense debuff? But then it doesn't matter because the Dedenne still gets off another player up, which is absolutely insane.
That is ridiculous. Back-to-back defense debuffs and still taking out the Metacham with that player off. That is huge. And now Raining Castform coming into the Frostlass. 1 Shadow Ball is not enough to KO this Raining Castform. I feel like this is still Raining Castform's game to win. Throwing the Water Weather Ball will be enough to KO the Frostlass. And Shady Equation, after getting a 1 in 100 chance of a 2 Psychic debuff, still manages to be taken out by the Dedenne in the end.
Yeah, the Dedenne is always a menace.
I kind of wonder if it was a counter Metacham, you'd be doing that little bit extra damage on those fast moves. You'd be taking that slightest more advantage of the Psychic debuffs.
Absolutely right. Psycho Cut, despite that energy generation, as you've seen on Cresselia, on pretty much any Pokemon that uses Psycho Cut, energy generation is great, but that does not matter when it comes to farming certain things out, unless it's super weak to Psychic, like let's say it's a Toxicroak. That's when it matters the most. But Counter, as we all know, does way more damage and has way more farm down potential.
No, absolutely. But now we're just stuck in this spot that, I've seen in chat, Ryan Swag popping off right now, seeing that's excessive to Dedenne for sure. But I just have to think that Shady Equation is sitting there just so dejected after seemingly having such good RNG, getting these 2 debuffs through and then just having nothing come from it. That Dedenne being Dedenne is not known as a particularly bulky Pokemon. It's sort of somewhere in the mid-range, but even with 2 defense debuffs, hangs on that 1 little bit of HP to get that player off. If that Dedenne went down, if its IVs were just a little bit worse, I think that was a Shady Equation's game to win.
So close. Very well played, though.
And now Shady Equation has to claw back the 3-2 as opposed to being 4-1 and putting their team at a 3-game disadvantage. So let's get into game number 5 in this first bout in the Factions World Championships with a Berserker into a Dedenne. 2 Pokemon we are getting very familiar with now. And we see an instant swap into Greedent Pokemon we are not familiar with at all, but one that is going to be going straight body slams against a Dedenne because there is no reason to go for that resisted crunch damage and a pretty bulky Pokemon. So you're going to be able to tank this discharge on the chin.
Very nicely. And let's see, we have Silph swapping it immediately to catch the crunch, which is actually interesting, thinking that he would catch the body slam. It was a very good swap to begin with. The crunch goes off, and we'll see if we get a defense debuff here, and we do get the defense debuff. So honestly, with the spam that Greedent has, there's going to be a lot of pressure resisting those Shadow Claws from Berserker, and having the spam of Bullet Seed and Crunch. Berserker's got to decide whether or not to shield right here, and he does not shield, and gives a potential farm down.
Okay, can someone just check a Shady Equations account for cheats? Because I don't know how he's getting all of these debuffs through. But close combat coming through from the Berserker, going into a shield from the Greedent, and at this point with the defense debuff, we'll be able to Bullet Seed down. Not something you see very often, but something we have just seen right now. And so this Greedent is packing a ton of energy, ready to go into either Pokemon really, because whether it's Dedenne or Rainy Castform, you're going to be able to throw these body slams sort of back to back and just keep throwing on that body slam spam, while Greedent is just, again, it's such a bulky Pokemon that it's able to absorb all of this damage, and it's doing a pretty solid job here. Like, it's making me wonder why we haven't seen more Greedent earlier on.
And he did swap back out to, he basically just used Castform as another shielder just to soak up the body slam, bringing back in his own Dedenne to get some energy. And we see Cypher's shield come out to shield the player up correctly. It's going to be a very close matchup here, but I think that the Greedent might be able to clutch the game later on. I think I'm calling it right now just because of that bulk, the spam, and honestly, you said body slam is spammy. I would say it goes back to back to back to back to back.
That is basically how it runs, but now has to make a last second decision here. Do they want to keep their Dedenne? And they do not. They are happy for this discharge to come through, take their Dedenne out, even though they had a little bit of energy, because they're still sitting on a full health Berserker as well. So Shady Equation throwing the body slam into the Dedenne now, that will weaken it down a little bit. It's definitely, with high bulk comes low damage, and so these body slams not doing too much, but alongside these Bullet Seeds, potentially this body slam is either going to take it, I think it might bring it to like 1 HP. I think the Dedenne might just barely survive this, and ideally, Thunder Cypher wants to get a move off, and actually going to see it go down.
Yeah, I think that normal types, like having body slam stab, does it, like that's where body slam becomes a lot more oppressive, because when you get the stab damage, it does that little bit more of damage that you really wish it didn't. But hey, Greedent does take out the Dedenne, and we shield the foul play. We'll see if Castform can take out the Berserker here. Going for a Thunder is very risky.
Yeah, if this gets shielded, and it does, that puts a lot of energy in the bin from Thunder Cypher, and now needs to get to another Water Weather Ball, but it's not going to get there before this Berserker can get to a foul play. This foul play going to be enough to KO this Water Rainy Castform, and then we just don't have any Pokemon sitting in the back. We do not have that 1 HP on the Dedenne, and so Shady Equation being able to bring it back up to the 2 to 3, meaning that Metal Raptors have only come out of this very first bout with a 1 game advantage.
Right. Very, very close. Very well played, though.
Yeah, and there it is on the board. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was incredibly well played. I think that, I think that Thunder Cypher played incredibly well with that energy, as you mentioned a little bit on earlier, sort of really able to maneuver around those matchups. It felt like the sort of length of the battle series might have sort of got to him a little bit, and he just wasn't playing as great as he was in those first couple games. Like, I think Thunder Cypher's first games were dominant. They were really, really strongly played from Thunder Cypher, but Shady Equation able to claw back the sort of 2 wins over the course of the set and make it still pretty tight with a lot of games left to go.
Very. And I was kind of disappointed not to see the Glasgow anymore. I was kind of hoping we'd see a bit more of that. But I think that with him using it and seeing how well he used it before, I think he kind of wanted to try and surprise Shady Equation by not bringing it. But unfortunately, I think that might have been the downfall in the end. In that last matchup with Rainy Castform, I think going for the Weather Ball there was pretty crucial. Even though it might not have done as much damage as you wanted it to, you might have been able to farm down a little bit more with Water Gun afterwards, and might have just eked out that 1 HP win. But the Thunder was a very huge call, because I if he knows the scenario better than I do, so if he doesn't shield that, Berserker's going down.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, if Weather Ball is the most logical thing for me to do here, then maybe I go for the Thunder, and Shady Equation will make the wrong prediction, and then the Thunder will go through, take the Berserker out, and sort of all happy days. But, you know, of course, I really liked Shady Equations, also worth commenting on the fact that he sort of brought out these picks that were a little bit like, he was changing the formula. He brought in the Psycho Cut Metacham. He brought in the Greedent. He was changing things up to try and keep Thunder Cypher on his toes and try and get those wins out. But let's bring Adelian sort of back in here. Adelian, sort of, how did you feel about the first bout of the Factions World Championships?
I'm not surprised that the result was as close. I thought at one point the Metal Raptors were running away with it, but at this sort of level, especially with the talent on offer between these two factions, it was all. I reckon most of these bouts are probably going to end up becoming 2-3. It's going to come down to the wire. There's people are going to tap into their sort of reserves of their wits and power if they're falling behind in order to try and climb back up. So very, very close. I think both players very much did a great service to their faction. Now the pressure is perhaps marginally on Elite TMs to try and win back and recover from that deficit, but there's 6 more bouts to go for. And bear in mind, you said it was 5 matches in each bout as well. So plenty of room. It's early days. Don't count any of these two factions out.
Exactly right. So I think we'll keep it moving and we'll get into matchup number 2, which again, we're playing this in sort of battle order. We're not manipulating anything around. So we are now going to be going into the Ultra League where Rem and Adelian will take it away. So see you on the other side.
Alrighty, so let's have a look and see at what the Ultra League matchup is going to be. So we have from the Elite TMs, we have Swampiert. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because otherwise that's going to be very embarrassing. Versus Azerox from the Metal Raptors. So to run through the teams, we have on the Swampiert side, we have the Registeel, the Shadow Charizard, the Giratina Altered Form, the Skunk Tank, the Ririzion, and the Shadow Snorlax. On Azerox side, Rem, do you want to go through Azerox perhaps?
Yeah, let's see. We got Walrein, Registeel, Charizard as well, Non-Shadow, and Cresselia, Virizion, and Mandibuzz. Now, the thing that I noticed instantly is Swampiert's Shadow Charizard. Shadow Charizard, as everyone knows who plays Ultra League, is literally one of the most busted Pokemon in Ultra League. And it's so hard to track that energy. If the opponent is able to overcharge and swap it out, you can lose track of that so fast. And Charizard can end up sweeping in the end game. So I think that Azerox being a bit weak to Charizard, actually not even just a bit, very, very weak to Charizard, with having Registeel, Cresselia, unless it has Future Sight, and Virizion, unless it has Stone Edge. It's going to be kind of a hard play around it, but let's see if Azerox gets past that Charizard to begin with.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see what happens there. So we're going into the first battle, and the Registeel is facing off. It is a mirror match of Registeel, so we'll see which one will win that charged attack priority event based on which was higher attack. Both running the same move set. So do they go? Who goes for the Focus Blast first?
Let's see.
Looks like was that
first?
Was that a charge? Was that a CMP event or not? It seems unlikely. Let's have a look. Let's see. Does tank the first one? Not a CMP event, so clever on Swampiert's side not to reveal quite so early on who wins that CMP matchup there. So now Swampiert retorting with another Focus Blast here. Both players on pretty much even ground so far.
Let's see who gets to the. It's a CMP tie that Azerox does win, and do we see the shield from Swampiert coming out here?
We do indeed at this point. Perfect. So it's necessary there to ensure that shields are exchanged. But now this is vital information for both these trainers. Now Azerox knows that he can confidently launch Focus Blast first and lets it go. So this is interesting. So he's opting to take, and here's bringing in the conventional Charizard to try and attack this Registeel and try and get to a move first. Does get to the Blastman before Registeel can throw another move. Will this go shielded?
Let's see. No shield. I do understand that though. Not wanting to give up both your shields in the very early on, especially with Azerox still having 2 shields and having a whole 2 shielded Charizard and Walrein. But then we have Swampert bringing in his own Shadow Charizard, unfortunately into a 2 shielded Walrein with energy, which is going to be a very hard climb back for Swampert.
Yes, absolutely. Although I do think it was sensible to do this because you really do not want to be in the matchup with your Giratina against that wall rain. So now it's a question of trying to play a bait game here. Swampert going for the Shadow Dragon Claw bait here. The bait is successful. Immediately a shield from Azerox, who does have the shields to expend at this point. So the first one comes in. It is a charge attack priority event, and now the Icicle Spear does go shielded, but on the Shadow Charizard, just to give it that bit of extra ability to launch a few more attacks. How close will it get before it throws another bait? Is Azerox going to fall for it this time?
I don't think so. Yeah, not this time, because it's hard. It's hard to play that matchup with a Charizard that's behind energy, because some people are able to call it much better when it's a Charizard, like when it's a Charizard swap it instead of being a safe switch with energy. So we'll see what happens after this Charizard goes down.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky now for Swampert because the Walrein has got plenty of energy. There are no shields, and this Giratina is going to take a fair amount of damage. This is not a Shadow Walrein, however, so the Giratina is bulky enough to tank at least one. And now the Shadow Charizard comes in back, but not before Giratina is able to get an Ancient Power off. But luckily, Azerox's final shield is utilized in the best possible way.
Do we get a boost here? Do we get a boost here? Oh, no, unfortunately, no boost. But it's going to be kind of a hard climb back. I think Azerox might get double Dragon Claw. It's unfortunate because Giratina has that ancient power, and that'd be able to take out Charizard from this range, I believe.
Yes, that's absolutely right. But as you are correct in your assessment, Rem, 2 Dragon Claws is sufficient to take out this Giratina, meaning Azerox takes that first strikes first blood, as it were, gets that first win, and this is Metal Raptors maybe trying to assert themselves and push further and further ahead.
Of course. Very rough game there. Having the Charizard, especially Shadow Charizard, being a shield down and having like that energy behind Walrein was a very hard call. Of course, you did have to swap out the Giratina out of the Walrein, but having Ancient Power might have actually, like, if you threw it once, maybe the Walrein might have been forced to shield a bit earlier.
Yes, I think that's a fair point. I think you were quite right that it was would always be a challenge for Swampert to come back. It's a fantastic player and certainly has the capacity to do so, but we are facing the best of the best here in the Factions World Championships, and so Azerox is not going to let any small advantage he has go to waste here. So he held on very nicely, called the right shields, and held on in order to secure that win. So let's see if Swampert is able to recover and get a win back and tie this score up, or does Azerox start to run away with it at this point?
Let's go ahead and find out. Oh, Charizard mirror match right after a Reggie mirror match in the lead. So let's see what happens here. Let's see who baits and who throws the blast burn. Oh, we see a swap out immediately.
And a counter swap as well. The Registeel, it's sensible here. Registeel is able to outpace to the Focus Blast before Walrein can reach the Earthquake. However, because of the energy lead, Walrein is able to launch first, chooses to go for the big hitting move, so no shield straight away on Swampert's side, but that Earthquake is not enough to KO.
Definitely not. We do see a Zap Cannon coming through. Is Azerox going to shield his Walrein?
I think probably not worth it. Probably not worth it at this point because it will likely get debuffed. And so I think the sensible call here, no shielding, may be able to get to another Earthquake in time. It is a race and the Earthquake does come through. Walrein is able to get another one. And even with the debuff, I believe the Earthquake at this range would KO. What do you think?
Yes, there we go. Oh, wait. Oh, no. With 1 HP. Wow.
Well, I stand corrected, so that is very significant. Now another Zap Cannon comes in, and Azerox loses switch advantage here, and there isn't a lot of farm on the for Charizard to farm down here, but still, one wing attack is better than none.
It's very true. And the fact that they both are running a dark type in the back, which is going to be very interesting from here. I'm wondering if Mandibuzz is bulky enough back there, because we do see Swampert bring in the non-shadow Skuntank, and Skuntank in Ultra League is a very interesting choice, being another poison dark type, having that fast move damage of Poison Jab, and no shielding the Blast Burn, which is a very unfortunate there. Let's see if we decide to get a shield, or let's see if Azerox uses a shield here.
I think it is sensible to use a shield here because you can potentially farm down this skunk tank. So choosing to swap out immediately, and now Azerox is launching his Dragon Claw at the opposing Shadow Charizard. Will a shield come out from Swampier's side? There is the shield to protect the health on that Shadow Charizard, and is he staying in? The Charizard is indeed staying in. There's huge damage coming. There's huge farm on Swampier's side to get as much energy as possible before this next Dragon Claw comes in and takes out Azerox's Charizard. So now it all rests on this Mandibuzz.
Which we have not seen too often in Ultra League, but it is a very bulky XL Pokemon. So I'm wondering what we're going to see here. Are we going to see an immediate shield just to shield the blast? We do, because that energy management and advantage, it's very easy to call the blast burn right away. And we'll see if we can just get off the foul play here or if it gets shielded immediately.
Yes, I think it was. I think Mandibuzz made the right call in going for another Snarl, but not before that Charizard was able to launch another Blast One. Look at how much damage is done, but Mandibuzz's bulk, so impressive, is able to withstand a Blast One, probably one of the hardest hitting moves in Ultra League from a Shadow Charizard there. Immense damage, but immense bulk demonstrated in just one matchup, and there is a switch straight away after that.
Yeah,
Wow.
We'll see if we can outpace it. Yeah, that's very fast. Snarl's super fast with Aerial Ace and Foul Play. We do get the shield from Swampert, but I want to see if he gets to the next Aerial Ace before they throw the crunch here.
Yeah, that will be the key thing, is going for the crunch. And I think at this range, even with Mandibuzz's bulk, that might be just about enough to KO. Let's see how close it gets. Will it be enough? It isn't enough, but there is, and the Aerial Ace comes in. There is a debuff, I believe, on the Mandibuzz as well. So Mandibuzz is able to take out the Skunk Tank. But what will happen when the Charizard comes back in? Will it be farmed down?
Just barely. Oh no, like, the Mandibuzz does go down, and Charizard does clutch the win, and Swampert does take that win for game 2.
That was a brilliant match. That was so close, and I think the most significant factor is when that Registeel survived. But we are going into the third battle. Oh, sorry, maybe not. Maybe this is a repeat of game 2. But soon we will be going into game number 3 in a bit. But yes, we begin. And it might be the same. It might be potentially the same battle here. But yeah, they instantly go into Registeel, and this time it's a catch on the Icicle Sphere. So no, this is the different battle. My apologies. So the good catch there by Swampert to get the Icicle Sphere landed on the Registeel now, and now it's a race to see who gets into a charge move first. And here comes a Zap Cannon from Walrein, and let's see if there will be a shield.
Shield from the Zap Cannon. We are going to get off an Earthquake here. I assume that we're not going to shield here because Registeel, we saw earlier, can tank an Earthquake pretty nicely. Oh, but they do shield up.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy, and that. I wonder if they're trying to get to another Earthquake in time, but I don't think they'll manage it. Will there be a farm down? No, they are able to get to an Earthquake. Walrein is able to land it, but this Walrein has been debuffed, I believe. So let's see, how much damage does this do? Not enough, it seems. Oh, was that an attempt at a catch?
I believe so. I don't think that because I don't think CMP would have been very optimal there. We do shoot the shield from the Zap Cannon, but it does debuff the Charizard, which is actually very difficult for the Charizard because having that damage is what Charizard excels at in Ultra League. So we'll see if the Charizard can come back from this as well.
I think it was a sensible decision by Azerox to launch the Blast Burn straight away. Any hesitation there would have meant that he would have had to lose a shield. So now it's a tricky one because there's nothing that's really going to withstand this Charizard, but it has been debuffed. So now Swampert feels a bit more confident, can farm up a little bit more before launching this shadow-boosted Blast Burn onto Azerox's Charizard, and he just chooses to shield it. Wow, interesting.
I think he's getting the idea to potentially swap out Charizard with energy later on so he can erase the debuff. That's what I would do, I believe.
Yeah, that seems like a very logical train of thought there. So yes, just trying to stall out the timer. The switch timer is up, but now another Blast Burn from the Shadow Charizard. And even though these fire moves are resisted, this Charizard on Azerox's side will still take huge damage from all that heat. Wow, that was close.
That was very close. And we do get off a Dragon Claw with about 1 HP, and we'll see how much damage it can do to the Shadow Charizard.
not as much as one would think. It does. Shadow Charizard does survive, although that debuff is probably the reason why that didn't do as much damage as one would like. But now here comes. We've seen this before. How many Blast Burns is Swampier's Shadow Charizard going to launch? A huge amount. But this Mandibuzz has the bulk to withstand this, even though it does so much damage. And now an instant swap straight after that into the Skunk Tank with its poison jabs, chipping away at this Mandibuzz.
Very much so. But Aerial Ace does not do that much damage, unfortunately, because it is a flying type attack, and it is stab damage from the Mandibuzz, but it does not do a lot to a Skuntank. And unfortunately, there's no catch here either. So let's see how much damage the flamethrower does to the Mandibuzz here.
It's a question as whether will it KO, but you kind of almost want it to KO because then the Skunk Tank can get doesn't get another poison jab off, but it does in this case before Mandibuzz is even able to launch any moves, and the Wall Rain is on 1 HP. Swampert has taken another win and is now leading this matchup 2-1 against Azirox. So still 2 matches to play for, but nonetheless. Nonetheless, a little advantage for Swampert at this current time. So, you know what I was saying earlier, about it's early days and how there's plenty of bouts that are going to come about where they're going to be close to they'll be close to 3-2. I wonder if this will be 3-2, but in Swampert's favor, or is Azirox going to be able to pull 2 fabulous wins from the back right now? I'm excited to see what happens.
I'm excited to see what happens too. I think it's going to be super close. I think that Azirox needs to be able to catch a Charizard in an unfavorable matchup for Charizard, because right now we're dealing with a lot of Charizard mirror matchups, and it's kind of getting rough for Azirox because he doesn't have the Shadow, and Swampert does. So let's see what happens in this next scenario.
Oh, this is not going to be great for Swampert Skunk Tank, but he does choose to stay in because that flamethrower can still be problematic for the Registeel. But these poison jabs do absolutely nothing. The bulk on Registeel is truly impressive. But here comes the flamethrower, and we know this fire is super strong against steel types. Will Registeel tank it? It does, but it does take a respectable amount of damage in the process. Now Registeel decides to respond and goes, right, you've given me a flamethrower, here's my zap cannon. Let's see how you take this.
That's a good amount of damage, and we do get the attack debuff there.
Yes, and that may be very significant as well, because it might mean this Registeel is able to withstand another flamethrower now, whereas before it perhaps couldn't. So let's see, was there a no shield on Azirox's side? Yes, I think that's a sensible decision, and the Registeel does survive and swaps out straight away to save that energy, and is responded to by Swampert's Registeel this time. So we'll see. It's a race to that Earthquake.
Very much, and it seems like Registeel is very much a core part of these players' teams. After seeing it for so much, usually it's kind of good to have a bulky Pokemon like Registeel on your team, just because you don't have to shield much with it. Like all you gotta do is just throw a Zap Cannon, you can get a debuff potentially, and that could potentially even clinch the matchup for you. Even if the Pokemon should normally win, let's say it's like a Swampert, if it gets a debuff properly, it can even flip the matchup.
And that looks like an attempt at a charge attack priority event, and the Wall Rain is able to get to that Earthquake first. Maybe their Registeel was 1 turn off. No shield on Swampert's side. He's happy to let this Registeel go down, but now there is a potential for a lot of farm on his Shadow Charizard. So I wonder if that's what Swampert intends to do. Nope, brings in the Skunk Tank to try and poison jab this down instead. So I wonder what the plan is there. Okay, so Wall Rain is able to launch first. So now Swampert, is he going to keep 2 shields? He is going to keep 2 shields for his Shadow Charizard. He's looking for a sweep in the back with the Shadow Charizard. Let's see if Azirox allows this or not. An instant swap.
Instant swap, and let's see. I believe that it's almost in equal energy here. I think that Azirox is about 1 wing attack behind.
Yeah, but as we know, 1 wing attack is so significant in these Charizard mirror matchups, and of course, Swampert does have that shield advantage as well, so a lot of it will come down to baits of this nature. So Azirox going for the bait here. Surely, oh, no shield! Wow, so there's a lot of damage done on that Shadow Charizard, and now the shields are coming out. But now Swampert has to be very careful, because these wing attacks could potentially be quite problematic if with the chip damage that's occurring. So let's see what Swampert opts to do. Goes for the Blast Burn here. Immediate shield by Azirox. Yeah, I think that's a sensible decision.
Very, very smart.
Yeah, well read there. Well read there. Now here comes another Dragon Claw to eliminate Swampert's final shield. But I think Swampert knows even if I shield this, I'm being wing attacked down, and chooses to bow out gracefully of that battle. So Azerox does pull that back, and now we do get to 2-2. And as I mentioned before, I thought a lot of these battles would end up this way. What do you see? What do you think so far?
I think that like these games are just way too close to call. It seems like it's all dependent on Registeel getting a debuff on one of the other opponents given Pokemon. I really don't know where this could go. I just think it's dependent on where Swampert is able to lock his Shadow Charizard, whether or not it gets energy. And I think for Azerox, it might be where he can lock the Registeel and be able to get a debuff off. I feel like that those are going to be I think this is going to be the pinnacle part of this game.
Oh, yes, absolutely. All comes down to this. Let's see who's able to take that other crucial win overall. Currently, Metal Raptors lead by 1 win, but it does come down to Game 5 for this particular bout. So here we go. Shadow Charizard from Swampiert's side against the Registeel from Azerox. So this is not great for Azerox at the moment, although in a shielded scenario, there's still room to play around here. So let's see, what does Azerox do to get out of this negative matchup here? The Charizard's at that Blast Burn and does launch it straight away, so Azerox really needs to shield, and he does make the right decision. Good call.
Very well played. And I think Swampert is very, very comfortable throwing straight Blast Burn on his Shadow Charizard because, like I said earlier in Ultra League, Charizard throwing straight Blast Burn, especially Shadow form, it does so much damage. So it's just almost always safe to either grab a shield or either destroy the Pokemon that just decides not to shield it.
Yes, absolutely. And I would hate to see a Blast Burn being launched onto Registeel because it does so much damage. Now it's a debate as to whether this goes shielded. No shield, and Azerox takes huge damage. But look at the bulk on Registeel. Was able to take it, tries to make a catch. I think that was successful, but does catch the Zap Cannon on the Skunk Tank anyway. Azerox might be okay with seeing the Zap Cannon hit the Skunk Tank, to be fair. So no debuff, though. So that's interesting. That makes a change.
Debuff, for sure. And I think it is kind of interesting because no matter what, if you swap into a Registeel, you risk getting debuffed. So it's always a choice of whether or not, like, which one do I swap in? Which one would be okay if I got a debuff, you know?
Yes, that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, it's about trying to minimize the impact of that debuff. So a crunch coming in, which if it does get the debuff as well, that will help with the defense drop, but no defense drop on this time. This Wolverine does have a bit of energy and is quite healthy on health. So the Icicle Fear does come in, and Swampiert opts to no shield his Shadow Charizard. Very brave, very interesting, because that will do a fair amount of chip damage.
I think he really does want to save his shield just for Registeel back there. I don't think we're going to see a swap out here. I think he might let Charizard go. I think Swampert might let Charizard go, and I think that Azerox might be. Let me see.
Okay. But we can see what's in the back now, because now it's the reverse situation. We see Swampiert's Registeel facing off against the conventional non-Shadow Charizard, but the Blast Burn's still going to do a huge amount of damage to the Registeel, so it really does come down to whether he calls his shield, it calls the bait, he doesn't, he falls for it, and a huge amount of damage on that Registeel. Now, tries to make a catch, but it doesn't really matter, the Focus Blast does come through, and so that's going to take out this Registeel if the shield does not come out. And there we go.
Now, this is where it gets rougher, yeah. Just because Registeel, it's very slow compared to Charizard, so you really can't bait. You can't do much here. You have to shield no matter what.
Yes, and if it's and Swampiert recognizing that this will almost certainly be a Blast Burn, and here it comes, and now a response, and maybe trying to throw the Zap Cannon to try and get a debuff here, but a shield on Azerox's side to ensure his Charizard stays healthy. I think certainly with Registeel being in the red, the only scope is if a catch can potentially occur, but this is going to be so risky to pull off. It's so close, and tries to make the catch, doesn't manage it, tries to go for the Blast Burn, does get the Blast Burn. This, but it's a question of, does this KO Rem? I'm not sure it does.
I think it's going to be like a fraction of HP. Yep.
Oh, that was so close. And then Azerox making the right call to get as much energy as possible. So he has the Dragon Claw to eliminate Swampiert's Shadow Charizard. Now, does he have enough to eliminate the Registeel afterwards? He just about has enough energy. Beautiful management. Beautiful energy management to know I need to have a lot in the tank to eliminate the Registeel afterwards. And there goes the Blast Burn. A boom worthy of Zionic. And there goes Swampiert's Registeel. Azerox taking this 3-2, so the Metal Raptors have another win advantage under their belt. Wow, very well played.
Very well played. These matchups, like we said, we're always gonna be super close, and it did come down to whether or not the Red Shield or Charizard would get the win.
Yes, absolutely. That alignment was key. I think it was very wise and sensible of Azerox to take the risk of farming up so much energy in that Charizard matchup, and then go to and then throw the Dragonclaw right at the very end. So really, really nice play. Both of these players are brilliant. Swampier's obviously a household name in North America and known in many other places. Azerox, I certainly recognize from many Silph tournaments in the past as well. So honestly, those were both two battlers performing at their peak, at their finest, and I feel very honored to just witness that, to be honest.
Hell yeah, my heart was actually ticking up a bit when I saw the Charizard swap coming in. I was wondering if it was going to be a successful catch there.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was thinking. I was getting nervous. I was like, "Oh, he might pull this off." We know what Swampier's like. He will sometimes do it. So there we are. We're gonna bring Steve back in, I believe, very, very imminently, and see what he thinks. Hey, look, as if by magic, he appears. How are you, sir?
Yeah, no, I'm okay. But man, those battles were solid. Like, I think that both of those battles are so incredibly skilled, right? I mean, I don't need to speak. I mean, actually, Azerox, should have mentioned this earlier. Azerox was last season's APAC Continental Champion. Actually, I mean, and also a Shady Equation was the Continental Champion 2 seasons ago, and also Dialab Chang later on was this season's North American Continental Champion. This is actually a very Continental Champion stacked finals, but those two played their absolute brains off. Like the energy management, the catches, the 1 HP and the debuffs also insane, but like they were two incredibly well played games, and it does not surprise me at all that we're seeing that level of skill in the finals.
Very much.
Yes,
very
I
much.
couldn't agree more. Sorry, Rem, go ahead.
No. I was just saying. I was agreeing.
Yeah, for sure. So I think so we've seen two 3-2 results in favor of the Metal Raptors. So all they really need to do is just keep this going. It's a small win, but every small step, one step closer towards glory. As we go in now to the Echo Field, I believe, for our next set of 5. Now, Echo is actually, I don't know, Steve, how much of the Echo meta did you play around with? But I played a couple of bouts on that, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice nod to all of the previous faction metas over the years, really. Did you Rem have any sort of play with the Echo Field at any point?
I did not. The last meta that I did play was Ultra League, and that was pretty much it after that.
Yeah, I did get to play Echo Field. I've been playing from the start of factions with my team Thunderous Down Under, and we did get a full 1 bout into the King of the Hill tournament. So I did get 1 bout playing in the Echo Field. So we did get a little bit of experience there, but it's definitely a fun one to sort of kick it back. But Adele and I will sort of take it away for matchup number 3, and we'll see Rem in a little bit. So see you soon, Rem.
See ya.
But Echo Field, so again, this is sort of one, it's a slot-based meta. There are 8 picks, band 2, and the picks are all based on some of those earlier metas from the start of factions all the way through to now. And I should sort of, so what we're going to be seeing is we're going to see That Boy J versus Arbanav. And this is the one matchup that I mentioned earlier, that these two played each other. So I believe that it went, actually, I might be mistaken. I don't think it is. Actually, I might have. Actually, I think That Boy J did play Arbanav, and it was a 2-1 result to That Boy J. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. All of the Elite TMs that are out there, let me know either way. But we're going to see these two face off in potentially what might be a rematch going back in action. But one thing that I should mention for this bout in particular is there were some sort of rematches. There were some disputes going on in the back half of this set. So I believe that we're only going to be watching 3 battles out of the 5, and the 2 that we're not going to watch, I believe there was sort of a trade of def wins that was sort of going on, so it's a little bit disputey, so we're just going to sort of leave those 2 matches aside, and essentially we might just sort of start off with both teams being at 1, or we'll just sort of play to 3. But we're going to have a few fewer matchups in this particular game. But either way, let's take a look at the teams. But yeah, so final result is going to be 2-1 either way, and then we'll just add an extra 1 on each side.
Yep, that sounds cool. And what I love about these two teams, Steve, is that they all 6 Pokemon. Oh, well, sorry, both teams only share one Pokemon in similarity. They both are running the Umbreon, but otherwise there's a lot of difference here. There is the Quagsire and the Vigoroth. You got the Forretress and Galvantula, and then in terms of the fairies, that boy Jay is running an Alolan Ninetales, and you have a Tapu Fini instead. Notes. The Forretress and Pelipper are also quite nice. I really do like Pelipper in this meta. It can flip a lot of matchups here, and it only really fears the Deoxys, I think, of that boy Jay's side, because Deoxys might be running Rock Slide or Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt in particular, Pelipper really does not appreciate. But I love how different this meta has allowed people to team build in new and unique ways, and it will certainly make for some interesting battles when they eventually do go up against each other very imminently. But anything stand out for you, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that you've sort of pointed out the sort of interesting team building thing, and I think that sort of comes from that slot based meta where you're sort of forced to, if I put my fairy in this slot, then I won't want to put it in this slot, so I've got to figure out something else in this slot, and it sort of makes this cascade of a different team. And this deep into the World Championships, it is really nice to see that these different teams are still running. You haven't seen it all converge into one single everyone's running this cookie cutter team, so it is really nice to see. But I do have a feeling that I mean, maybe it's just a copium, maybe I'm just really hoping that we see a little bit of, maybe a lot of Pelipper action, like you mentioned, because I do love seeing that Pelipper and love the chances to sort of get those hurricanes through. But it has been sort of mentioned in chat as well that Arbanov is the only battler to have competed in both factions World Championships. Last season, they were playing with the Chicago Stars, and it got through to the World Championships where they barely lost out to the EU Emperors. So Arbanov sort of playing it back to try and get the win in season 2 and the final season of Factions. But let's get into it with the third bout of the Factions World Championships. That boy Jay versus Arbanov, and we are jumping in with, drum roll please,
Boom.
and Alolan Ninetales into a Galv.
Okay, interesting. So let's see first of all what moveset is on this Alolan Ninetales, because that might be, it is a Charm Alolan Ninetales, which means this Tapu Fini will not be taking resisted damage from Powder Snow. So Alolan Ninetales more than happy to keep chipping away at this Tapu Fini, but not before Tapu Fini is able to launch a Surf and start putting out some chip damage of its own. Steve.
Yeah. Man, I love Fini, but the charms are really starting to bring that health bar down. Fini will be able to get to one more Surf here, and the fact that that boy Jay isn't throwing a charge move makes me think that it might be a case that they want to shield up here, charm down, and then throw the energy. Oh no, they're keeping their energy in the back, swapping into Vigoroth. I really like this play because that means that Vigoroth is going to be able to come away with energy. Vigoroth, just like Frostlass, one of those Pokemon that becomes incredibly dangerous when you put a little bit of energy on them, and a Silph classic for sure. But here comes that Galvantula, and a Body Slam is going to start to chip away at this relatively squishy Galvantula, and so we're going to see actually a no shield on the first one.
I am actually quite surprised that there was a no shield on the first one, because normally Galvantula users tend to like to shield early in order to get off some lunge debuffs. But I think here, opting to shield and not shield early just to ensure that there's not that situation where the body slams are thrown, but then the Galvantula potentially gets farmed down afterwards because of the debuff on the Vigoroth's side. So I think this Galvantula is just soaking up all the damage and giving a debuff, but now there's plenty of opportunity for Pelipper to farm, and it doesn't mind the debuffed body slams coming from the Vigoroth. So this is actually potentially a sensible idea.
Yeah, I think what's happened here is they do want to keep those shields for that Pelipper in the back to try and sweep away. The energy is still hanging on that Alolan Ninetales, so Arbanov decides to shield up the first Ice Weather Ball from the Alolan Ninetales, but here comes a second one, and oh no, we're going to see the Water Weather Ball coming off first. That boy Jay, unfortunately, not able to get off that back-to-back move, so going to be going down, and then I guess you bring in the Umbreon here to try and get to these foul plays sort of as quick as you can. They're obviously obviously still is a shield apiece on both sides, but Pelipper is going to be able to outpace to 2 Weather Balls, potentially going to go for a Hurricane, but we'll see how the game plays out with a foul play being shielded into the Pelipper, because this is sort of a point that 1 foul play is all Umbreon's going to need to try and take this Pelipper out. 1 Weather Ball is not going to be enough from Pelipper.
Yes, I think it was an attempt to make a bait here, but I don't think it's necessary, even if it was a Hurricane, for Umbreon to shield. Umbreon, as we know, one of the most bulkiest Pokemon in the Great League meta, and certainly in a restricted meta like this, even more oppressive. And there it's demonstrating its bulk to take out the Pelipper and secure the first win for that boy Jay. So well played there. We're hoping the Pelipper might be able to hurricane its way to victory, but nothing really can work. Even that isn't enough to deal with Umbreon.
Yeah, I think Arbonav's sort of other 2 picks were hoping to land on that Umbreon a bit earlier. The Galvantula or the Tapu Fini both have slightly better matchups against that Umbreon, although the Tapu Fini versus Umbreon matchup is sort of strangely not as strong in favor of Tapu Fini, just because you do sort of need to rely on landing the Moonblast when you can. But, you know, regardless, I think that Arbonav, there was certainly a potential for win there, and I think that boy Jay sort of outplayed. It definitely wasn't decided on team comp. Arbonav definitely has some sort of solid ability to sort of take this one out if he can sort of land his picks a little bit stronger. But we'll keep it moving and get into game number 2 here. The Elite TMs sort of starting to claw back, only 1 game behind in the overall set so far. So that boy Jay definitely looking to try and get some wins back on the board to make sure that the Elite TMs stay in it to win it. And it looks like maybe we only have 1 perspective, or maybe the second video doesn't start quite yet. There we are with the Fortress, the world champion pick from Speediest Chief into the Pelipper, and we see a quick swap into that Umbreon, which means that Arbonav is able to swap into the Galvantula.
Oh, and he will love to see this. So the Umbreon is able to get the foul play off first. So normally, you'd see a shield come out early on against Galv, but this is foul play from an Umbreon. It isn't too hard hitting, so it might make sense to no shield this and goes for the lunge straight away to try and prevent that snarl damage from chipping away too much at this Galvantula. No shield on Umbreon's side. The bulk of Umbreon demonstrating it can withstand a little bit more damage here. But here comes that second foul play. Do you reckon it's worth shielding now, Steve?
I mean, look, he really does want to take the Umbreon out, but decides to let it go. Not going to be able to get to another move, unfortunately. Oh, wait. Oh, I thought I spoke too soon, but no, Umbreon just taking out the Galv. I wonder if Arbonav expected to be able to get that move off, and that's why they're happy to leave it. But, you know, with Umbreon switch locked here, I suppose Arbonav is able to bring this Tapu Fini out. As much as it isn't as bulky as you'd like it to be, it is able to take a last resort quite comfortably, and then we actually see a swap out into Cresselia. I think that Arbonav can quite comfortably guess that this Cresselia is running the Grass Knot, so has to be a little bit wary here, and is probably going to be looking to swap out into that Pelipper, and there's the swap, because you do not want to see that Grass Knot going into your Tapu Fini.
No, absolutely not. And I think you can now that boy Jay recognizing that Cresselia is the key to victory here, and is going to do everything he can to keep it protected. Pelipper now looking to farm up a little bit more, and now going for a couple of baits, hoping to tease away a few shields, maybe threaten with that Hurricane. But that boy Jay makes the right decision and calls the bait. So well played on that boy Jay's side. And now is going to be the surprise factor. Will Abhinav recognize that this is a future sight and not a grass knot? Is there no shield? There is no shield, and huge damage on that Pelipper. Wow.
This is getting to the point where Psycho Cuts are going to be enough Adelian. This is getting really, really tight. The health on the Cresselia has gone down as well, but that boy Jay actually letting it come through, wants to take all of this damage onto the Cresselia, is still able to survive and get a Grass Knot off. The knowledge of his Pokemon is insane here, and peeling off another shield from Arbonav. Now going to be able to comfortably bring in the Umbreon, tank this energy from the Pelipper, and then try to finish this off with the Fortress, who is still packing a lot of health in the back. A single Hurricane is not going to be enough to take this Fortress out, so we actually see Pelipper going straight for the Water Weather Ball here, and that boy Jay staring it stone cold in the face, no shielding the Water Weather Ball, and now has 2 shields to take on this Tapu Fini. I think I know where this is going, Adelian.
Oh, yes, I do. Now, we know that bug-type attacks are resisted by fairies, but you can see here there is a rock-type move coming from the coming from the Fortress, which is going to be enough to take out the Tapu Fini. Here comes the Rock Tomb. Not a rock-type move you see all that often, but more than enough. And then a few bug bites, and the Pelipper falls off its pedestal straight after that as well. So that Boy J really setting an impact. It's been the two matches of this bout, and he's already recovered the two losses that Elite TMs were behind by. So now it's down to Abhinav to dig deep and try and recover from this and go, nope, yeah, I'm giving away our hard-fought lead. Let me see if I can work some magic and bring something back. But 2-0, that is quite an emphatic statement by that Boy J early on in this bout.
Yeah, and I feel like that Boy J just won that with a 2-shield flex, by the way. That Boy J did not burn a single shield to take out Arbanav's team, which I think comes down to a little bit the fact that Arbanav is running very bulky Pokemon in the terms of Tapu Fini and Umbreon. Arbanav was running Galvantula and Pelipper in that game, which is actually a bit surprising that Boy J has been able to run away without having to burn a shield there. I guess that's actually just because that Boy J was actually the one running bulky Pokemon in Cresselia and Umbreon and Fortress, all able to soak up so much damage that shields were just unnecessary. So I don't know whether that means Arbanav needs to sort of swap out their strategy, maybe go for some more bulky Pokemon to try and outlast that Boy J, force them into more neutral matchups where shields need to be burned, or just try and bring Pokemon out that are a little bit more threatening, because as much as Pelipper can be a really dynamic Pokemon with those hurricanes doing so much damage, if you're in a point where you're just throwing water weather balls, it's not that good a move when you're up against these bulky Pokemon. It's just not enough. So maybe Arbanav actually needs to pivot away from the Pelipper, or just needs to sort of take a bit more of a risk and jump in for the Hurricane. But look, I think we'll get into game number 3. Again, this is actually the last game of the set. And then we'll sort of add points regardless. So that Boy J has sort of taken it out, as were to say, but it is all about every single battle point mattering here. So we see the Vigoroth into the Galvantula in the lead.
Yes, and this is good. This is good to see the Galvantula here. Though this is a relatively even matchup, despite the counters being resisted, just because Galvantula is quite squishy. And now we see Abhinav launching that shield out very early on to take as minimal chip damage as possible, going for another Volt Switch before throwing that lunge. And this is where the first debuff comes in. I don't think there's a need for a shield at this point, do you?
No, not at all. Vigoroth can comfortably take that lunge. We'll take the attack debuff, and we actually see a swap out into the Pelipper, potentially trying to catch a move there, but regardless, that Boy J staying strong and swapping into their Alolan Ninetales, who is doing a lot of charm damage here. Arbanav, again, he's not had a successful Hurricane bait yet, but he's going for it again, and that Boy J calls it once more. Reading Arbanav like a book, you are not going for that Hurricane, and now able to go for another Water Weather Ball that will put the pressure back onto that Boy J. Do they want to shield this up? And no.
No, I think he recognized from that first weather ball that was not needed, that he could tank too comfortably and still force Abhinav to use that final shield. He's happy to use this to try and force switch advantage. That Boy J is trying to do that, and it is able to win it at this point. And now Galvantula comes back in. Sensible here, getting a nice Volt Switch in, which may help in subsequent matchups. But we can see that Umbreon is going to struggle against the Galvan Tapu Fini line that Abhinav has. So Vigoroth coming back in to try and chip away at this Galvantula, not before another lunge is launched immediately on this Vigoroth.
Yeah, you're right. That Boy J looking very, very weak to that Galvantula. We actually see Arbanav swap out into the Tapu Fini, who again is going to be able to put on a fair bit of pressure by going for these Moon Blasts onto the Umbreon. This is looking like a very, very strong position for Arbanav to claw back this game. Able to take a last resort quite comfortably, and then will presumably be going for that Moon Blast. There have been enough baits from Arbanav that have not been successes. It is time to go for the real thing. That Boy J actually does a shield this time. Is that Boy J just looking at Arbanav's phone? This is insane. Every single call being made the right direction, but now has to go for another last resort. And Arbanav does still have that shield if they really want to use it, but I think it makes more sense for them to save it for the squishier Galvantula, who is going to be a little bit more important for them in these two matchups, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And now the foul. I thought that that boy Jay was about to launch that foul play, but no, not before Tapu Fini is able to launch the Moonbus, and that is very significant. It doesn't just about KOs; it just about KOs, and then an instant swap into the Galvantula. But then now Vigoroth launched its body slam straight onto the Galv, and so surely a shield at this point, right?
Look, please do. So we see the shield there, and another body slam coming through. This is actually getting a lot tighter than I thought it would be, but Vigoroth does not have a lot of health left. So even if this Vigoroth can take this Galvantula out, there is still a Tapu Fini to water gun down in the back and able to KO the Vigoroth, clawing the game back for Arbanov and the Metal Raptors and bringing it to a 2-1 score. Really, really well played and really nice adjustment from Arbanov, leaning into the Galvantula, but able to let it go when he recognised the water guns were able to take it away. So really, really well played.
Yes, absolutely. I think a Galvantula is a must-have, I think, against that Boy J's team. It's got so much coverage available. So we, as Steve mentioned, there was a couple of disputable matches for the games 4 and 5. So they ended up with one def win apiece, taking this match to 3-2 in favour of that Boy J. So now this time, the advantage. This time, Elite TMs have a slight advantage in that bout. So now I believe there is just one win difference overall between Elite TMs and the Metal Raptors. So it's it's 8 wins in favor of the Metal Raptors, I think, and 7 in favor of the Elite TMs. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, no, that is accurate. I can do my maths on my hands. Also, we may be able to see the numbers on the back end, but it looks really, really like Echo able to bring back the Elite TMs a little bit with some really strong plays even Arbanov played really, really well for sure, but just able to be taken out by that Boy J. Again, in their sort of rematch from the earlier bout in the group stage of the World Championships. But it does mean that next up, we will be heading into some more Pandemonium, where we will actually end up seeing some more North American Continental Champion action. But let's bring back in Rem after that sort of a cracker of a set with Arbanov versus that Boy J. Rem, welcome back in. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, guys?
How was your break? Did you enjoy those battles while you were chilling in the background?
I went to get a snack just so I could watch those games because I was already sweating, already knowing who it was going up against each other. I was just the entire time. So
you should make that an emote. You should make that an emote on your Twitch channel.
Rem nervous eat.
Awesome stuff.
We'll be waiting. But we are going to be getting back into Pandemonium to keep these sets going. Again, these are sets of 5, so it is essentially first to 16. So Metal Raptors already halfway. Oh, I keep saying 16. It's actually first to 18. So not quite halfway there. So I'll get into this next set where me and Rem are going to be taking it away. So Adelian, I think learn from Rem. Get a snack. Seems to be the strat.
How's it going, Steve?
All right. No, not too bad. We've got another really high level set up in the World Championships here, because next up, I believe we're going to be seeing the reigning North American Continental Champion and someone who did incredibly well in the Silph Arena World Champions as well. Definitely had a high shot of taking out the entire thing, and that is Dialap Chung versus Dekachan 66 with some very, again, Pandemonium is an interesting one where you've got a lot of different Pokemon coming in, and we do see two picks that we didn't see in the earlier bout with a Shady Equation versus Thunder Cypher. So let's bring those teams up on the screen, and Rem, let us know what you're sort of seeing here that's maybe standing out.
We're seeing, even though it was the first minute that we covered Pandemonium. Yeah. So we're seeing Berserker and the Dene again. We see that there's a pretty strong core that players like to choose. And we are seeing from Dekachan, we're seeing Frostlass and Gliscor. So already got really good 4 picks right there on that team comp. But from Dialap, we see Dene, Berserker, Shadow, Snorlax, Metacham, Jellicent, and Rainy Cast form.
Yeah, so some picks that we've sort of seen again and again in the earlier set, but definitely I'm pretty interested to see the Blastoise especially sort of come out from Dekachang. Sort of interesting to me, and something that I really want to know the sort of meaning behind it. Back in the World Championships for the Silph Arena, we actually saw Nian Kake, who was the only person to defeat Wadaj on their way through to the World Championships, run a Blastoise in their team. And we never got to see it. And I was sitting there the whole time trying to figure out why it was on the team when there were better picks in that particular meta. Now, in this meta, because you have only certain picks that are allowed or not allowed, Blastoise potentially might have a little bit more play. Although, I don't know. Do you see a place for Blastoise against this team? Because immediately, I get that Hydro Cannon is a good move for him. I get it. But it just feels like it's a little bit underwhelming in terms of stat product, in terms of coverage move for this particular meta. Like, I'm personally just not seeing it.
Really, Blastoise is an interesting pick for any team comp, whether it's in an official format or if it's in GVL, just because Blastoise is one of those random water types that you don't normally see, but when you see it, you kind of wish you didn't, because it's literally just there and it's bulky. And honestly, you can lose track of water gun hydro cannons so often. Like, a Blastoise might come out with energy and you don't know how much energy it really has until you're forced to shield at least twice. So so against a Blastoise, I think Dialab has a lot of play, just because Blastoise, while it has the bulk, not necessarily as bulky as it is in Ultra League, but here Blastoise is definitely slower than let's say Dedenne, Jellicent. I would say that it's hard walled. It's hard walled by both water types, unless for whatever reason Dekachan's running Skull Bash. But who runs Skull Bash Blastoise in Great League? So
I wouldn't say that too soon. We never know. We've been wrong plenty of times in the past calling movesets and the like. So I feel like actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because there's not a lot of stuff for you to hit Ice Beam with, like it's only sort of Gliscor, which you can still hit with Hydro Cannon, maybe Skull Bash is the play. Maybe Skull Bash, so you've got that coverage. You don't get coverage for Jellicent, but you get coverage for Rainy Castform. And so, I don't know, maybe we see a Skull. I mean, look, I sort of feel like Dekachan's got some picks that it might be a little bit better than Blastoise to use up against Dialab's team, so maybe we won't find out the Blastoise moveset. But regardless, we've got 5 games ahead of us, so let's get into game number 1 in, I believe, matchup number 4 here in the faction. So we're sort of heading towards the midway point here to see who is going to try and push out that lead. We've got the Elite TMs coming in with the Dedenne, going into the Gliscor, so,
But it's totally fine. Let's see. We do see the swap into Rainy Castform to catch the Body Slam.
Yeah, Rainy Castform, definitely a very bulky Pokemon, so able to take this quite decently. And so we're just going to see the water guns sort of adding up. The weather balls going to be adding up here and as well. And the Shadow Snorlax, even though Snorlax is relatively bulky, the Shadow brings it right down. So even from a Rainy Castform, that water weather ball, actually just barely not enough to KO and surviving on 1 HP to get the Body Slam through onto the Rainy Castform. This is definitely huge for Dialab, because that means the Rainy Castform goes down. Oh my gosh. 1 HP.
All these bulky Pokemon are these are very unconventional matchups. Like, you wouldn't think that the Castform would survive Shadow Stab Body Slam from Snorlax, but here we are.
Look, unconventional matchups, the tagline of the Silph Arena. Gliscor throwing the Night Slash onto the Rainy Castform. Not getting the boost there, but we've still got plenty of time with the Dedenne. Now coming into Rainy Castform. Castform going to throw the Weather Ball to try and get some chip damage, but this isn't a great spot for Dialab. Okay, we've actually now seen both Rainy Castforms turn into Blastoise on the team sheet, but we've now got Rainy Castform still throwing as many moves as possible.
Let's see. Okay, no shield there, but the Denny's getting a lot of energy right now. Do we see the first shield come out on Rainy Castform? Yes, we do. Very good, very interesting shield, but unfortunately, that Dedenne is full of energy right now. So let's see what Dialab decides to do.
Yeah, Rainy Castform deciding to shield up there, wants to keep this thing, at least be able to get another move to try and take this Dedenne out. Just going to water gun all the way down, but it's going to, okay, able to get there before another discharge comes through. And now it is back Gliscor. Going to throw these water weather balls again, doing some nice super effective damage onto the Gliscor. So going to get that shield out. And then we've actually got a bit of energy on there. Actually, no, we don't. So I'm just going to see this hop to Dedenne. So forcing it to go all the way up to an Earthquake, but not going to be able to get there before Dedenne gets to a play rough.
What? Okay, the fact that was so well played, it's like Dilap saw this whole matchup from the beginning. Like, knowing to have the energy on Dedenne to get off that play rough to finish off the Gliscor was huge.
Look, Dilap is an incredible battler, especially in these Show 6 formats. I've seen him time and time again. He seems to know all of the matchups and how to play things. I feel like for the last sort of 2 years through sort of obviously Silph tournaments, but also through like the antimatter tournaments as well, Dilap is someone who's able to come again and again and again and continue to perform in literally any meta you throw him into. And so this is one that he sort of knows the formula. He knows what to do. He knows the matchups well enough that he can sort of do anything here. And not to pick favorites here, but I think Dilap definitely looks like someone that could sort of take this thing out, especially with that, very recent North American Continental Championship title.
Right. Exactly. I think here, actually, you know what? I think I faced Dilap in a practice bout for this past NAIC, not practice bout, practice tournament for NAIC, and he beat the heck out of me. So I'm not surprised to see him clutch the wins here. He's a very, very skilled player, but I want to see if Dekachan can bring it back.
Oh, look, again, these are world championship contenders. They are all deserving to be here. So I'm sure that we're not going to see a 0 stay on that side of the board.
Definitely not.
But let's get into game number 2. See if we see that 0 turn into a 1 sooner or potentially later. Only one way to find out, and that's by jumping in with the 2 rating cast forms that we're seeing on here. We've got the Dedenne going into the Frostlass, and we can see that's a recording from the team all in the Discord call as well. But Dedenne coming in to throw the discharge straight away into the Frostlass. And Frostlass, I mean, you can no shield this. You can take it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Sorry, I was taking a drink there. Let's see.
Water gun drink from water cast form with the Dedenne coming in as well. But water gun, forward weather ball, not going to do too much damage to Dedenne, but it does start to add up over time. Again, it's these bulky Pokemon getting off a lot of little pieces of damage, but still able to get a shield out of Dedenne. So Dekachan clearly deciding that this Dedenne is going to be important and wanting to build their team around it a little bit, throwing a discharge into a no shield cast form.
Oh, wow. Oh, it did a lot of damage. I don't know why I thought for a second that Rainy Castform was part electric.
Hey, look, it's got the thunder, right?
Exactly. I keep forgetting whenever I look at Rainy Castform, I'm like, I know it's a pure water type, but a pure water type having electric type move and not being Lantern is weird to me for whatever reason. But the thing here is that that like Dedenne, I think a lot of players who understand how Dedenne works could use it so well just because of the fact that you can easily throw a player up and they won't shield and it'll do so much damage. But oh man, that amazing catch from Dilap to get the discharge. Wow.
Master of catches, this dial-up guy, taking that discharge on the chin like it was nothing. And now we see a swap out into Frostlass, who does have energy, but Dial-up is holding on to 2 shields here. So able to quite comfortably shield this up, has that energy ready to throw back at the Frostlass as well. Going to farm up a little bit more before Frostlass can get to its avalanche. And now going to put that pressure back onto Dekachan to sort of make the decision on them. And they let it go.
Okay, so we have a full HP Rainy Castform in the back, and we have a very low, probably sack swap Dedenne in the back. So let's see what happens here.
Yeah, I mean, the switch timer is still so far away, so Dial-up can quite comfortably throw this discharge, but the water guns are really adding up. So, there's not a lot of health left on this Dedenne. Gets the shield, the last shield out of Dekachan, but not going to be able to get to another discharge. So we see a swap out into Snorlax. Good thing that Dial-up held onto this shield. shield, because now he can shield up this water weather ball and try and throw all of this energy onto that rainy cast form. And looks like we're going straight for the body slam for not only the same type attack bonus, but really wants to keep that attack up for the second charge move that he needs to throw to try and take this rainy cast form out. Potentially, okay, no, just going to go straight body slam here.
Oh, you know what? I did see Dekachan try to catch it right then. I did see him try to click the Dene just right there. I don't think Casper's going to survive this. Oh, unfortunately not.
Yeah, and now there's just no hope. The hope really was on the catch. If they were able to get that catch, waste that body slam away, Castform would have been able to get to another water weather ball and potentially would have been able to take out the Shadow Snorlax with that water gun damage as well. So Dekachan really heads up play there, but unfortunately Dialab sort of able to get that move just before the catch. A little bit slow on the catch, I suppose, technically, but still really well played from both sides as always, as we're going to see in these things. But regardless, definitely some actually I think it was only one turn off, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I see. Home Slice Henry did say in chat, would have been a generational catch. It's so true.
So I just realized in the back of my head, I was like, wait, there was one other match in this series that was a dispute situation, and I couldn't remember off the top of my head when it was. So I was like, wait, is this the one? I didn't remember. So I was like, I saw a dispute somewhere. It's like, oh, was this the one? But I think we're still all good. So we're set for game 3, I think. Maybe need a fact check on the back end where that other dispute was.
Let's see it. Oh, it is going to be Shadow Snorlax into Frostlass. Now, this is actually pretty interesting because with energy, Frostlass can actually win this matchup. But Snorlax being able to just shield and do super effective lick damage, shadow lick damage, it's going to be it's going to be kind of a climb. Let's see what comes out here. We do get a swap right into Rainy Cast form, trying to get a bit of energy here, but Snorlax is nearly maxed out at 100 energy there. You don't see shield immediately from Dialab right here.
Yeah, Dialab going to comfortably just take the water weather ball, getting pretty low there, but keeping that Snorlax in the back for later on. I have a feeling we're going to see a catch a little bit later, but we've got a discharge coming out into this Rainy Cast form. Rainy Cast form does not want to see this discharge, but it's a question of whether Dekachan even really wants the Rainy Cast form out on the field, and they decide, not really. I'm going to keep my shield for the Frostlass and the Dedenne in the back. But, I mean, where do you go from here? Like, do you bring in the Frostlass, I suppose? You're already, like, energy dry, essentially, so you're going to have to see another charge move coming from the Dedenne as well. There's a lot of pressure from Dialab mounting up here on Dekachan.
Very much so, very much so. I want to see, because again, Frostlass up energy is disgusting. I do want to see if, Dekachan actually does throw the Avalanche very soon. Do we get a shield out of Dialab? No shield.
Okay, Dialab gonna essentially put all his chips on that Rainy Cast form in the back, which is a little bit scary when there is a Dedenne sitting there on the other side, but regardless, gonna try and farm up a bit of energy here, but see a swap out into Dedenne, and here's the swap into Snorlax. Snorlax sitting on all of this energy, ready to just throw out at this relatively non-bulky Dedenne, getting the first shield with the first body slam, but there is more energy to go, almost at back-to-back again. And I mean, Ram, you were right before when you said body slam is back to back. This thing is just throwing out again and again and again. And here's number 3. Dedenne is just feeling the pressure here.
Jeez, and I do think that even if Frostlass gets a good farm down here, which it definitely will, it's going to be dealt a considerable amount of damage from just straight lick alone. So water gun down is pretty much how this match is going to go. Yeah.
Even if Dekachan threw a move there, it would not have been enough to KO. with, I mean, it was a full health Rainy Castform. So even though Rainy Castform, I mean, like looking at the matchups in the back lines, like Rainy Castform was sitting there essentially guaranteed to have to face a Dedenne in the back. But somehow, just by virtue of having saved up all of the energy from before, Dial-Up was able to sort of force his way through, throw all of those moves onto Dedenne and just really force it out. So essentially it came down to Dial-Up not only having incredibly strong energy reservation at the start of the game, recognizing that the energy would be useful later, like he did in the earlier game, but also recognition of keeping that shield for the Snorlax as well. So really just setting up this sort of big demolisher, just ready to lie in wait for the back lineup when all hope was lost with a potential water type into an electric type, was just able to wheel it out and push things back into Dial-Up's favor. Like, just incredibly well played from Dial-Up, like insanely so.
And you don't see Shadow Snorlax being played like that often at all. Shadow Snorlax is usually used as a safe switch, not as a lead.
Yeah. Dial-Up also throwing things on their head just to confuse Dekachan, keep him guessing as to where this stuff is going to go. But we will jump into game number 4 here. I can confirm there are no disputes in this set, so we're all clean. But 3-0, Dial-Up is really tearing away from this, so Dekachan needs to try and get some wins back soon, or else Elite TMs are going to be generating quite the lead here. And here's that Shadow Snorlax going in the lead for a second time. See a swap out into the Rainy Castform, and now Dial-Up is the one able to put his electric type onto that water type Rainy Castform. This is already not a great start for Dekachan, who really needs to start clawing back those games.
Yeah, it's very rough, but you see the weather ball already comes through, and I want to say that potentially, if Dekachan wanted to, you could 2-shield and farm all the way down.
Yeah. Oh, no, not the strategy that he's going to go for, though. Going to let the discharge come through, deciding to keep those shields for a later matchup, getting that Rainy Castform relatively low, and deciding that Dial-Up needs to go for that discharge to try and take the Rainy Castform out and keep Dedenne a little bit healthier so that it can potentially get to another charge move. But here is Psycho Cut Medicham, again, counter banned here, so the move's coming out a little bit quicker. Dynamic Punch Psychic being the move set that Medicham is running here for that fighting damage. Going to shield up the play rough, and then it's just going to farm down with Psycho Cut. It's a really nice play from Dekachan here.
Very much, very much. And while Dial-Up is still up in 2 shields, you're going to have to shield a Psychic at some point. Or Dynamic Punch.
Oh, okay. No shield. I'm just going to let this go.
Well, I think the reason why Dial-Up feels comfortable no shielding is because without counter Medicham, there isn't a lot of fast move pressure. So it's really up to Dekachan to try and play and like weave the way around just these 2 matchups here.
Yeah, I mean, look, and we've seen Dial-Up, a master weaver beforehand, still holding on to both of his shields as well, and actually is going to let this go. Going to comfortably call, because Medicham does not have counter, because it is running Psycho Cut, Snorlax actually has such a better matchup up against Medicham, able to comfortably just shield up here. We'll be able to shield again, and I don't know if this is true, but maybe, okay, I was going to say maybe you can farm all the way down, but we're actually going to see a swap out into Dedenne, which might even work out a little bit better for Dial-Up, because Dedenne is a little bit less threatening than the Medicham, and he might be able to force his way through with energy so that he can just throw a body slam straight away onto the Medicham in the back, or at least be relatively close to one. So Dial-Up getting pretty close here with the discharge. I mean, you've still got a shield, and I feel like you're a little bit more scared of the Dynamic Punch from Medicham, so you don't need to shield, but there is another move here, so Dial-Up has a shield here.
Definitely. I don't know how much energy Medicham has anymore. I kind of lost track, but here, Dial-Up can just get 2 body slams. That's gonna be kind of a rough comeback. Let's see if it can happen though.
Yeah. Medicham is a little bit dry, but Dial-Up perfectly counting, getting the body slam off right as the Dedenne had the move. This will be enough to carry the Dedenne, and has just short of the second move, and is going to be right there to take this Medicham out as well. Wow, Dial-Up is just playing his absolute brain off. It is insane-o how he is managing to demolish here so much. Like, Shadow Snorlax should not be this good. I've never seen anyone play Shadow Snorlax in the Great League this good, Ram.
I really have never seen it. I've never seen it either. I've never seen it be so dominant in any given matchup. But without counter Medicham and in the meta without fighters, it makes a lot of sense why Snorlax would be, or anything that, doesn't threaten Snorlax directly. Like, it's very, very strong. And I wonder, I want to check those Snorlax's IVs, because that seems like it's pretty safe there.
Yeah, can we get a mod check on the IVs here, please? Just 'cause this is absolutely insane. And now, like, look at this, right? Dial-Up is at 4-0. That is huge in factions when every single battle counts. He is just extending that Elite TM's lead. They were 1 behind going into this bout, and they are now 3 ahead. This thing is just changing on a knife's edge. And Dekachan, if he doesn't win this last battle, Dial-Up will have taken a 5-0 and push it to a 4-game advantage for the Elite TMs. And again, we're playing this in we're playing this in the order that they were played. So this is sort of like, this happened. Like, Dial-Up is pushing this lead further and further from the Metal Raptors, who seem to have such a nice clutch of it earlier on. So Dekachan really needs to pull something out here and try and get rid of that Shadow Snorlax. And apparently, just having Metacham on the team was not enough. Maybe you need the Berserker and the Metacham to try and pack in as much fighting damage as possible, just to try and take Snorlax away, because I don't see any other way to beat Dial-Up here.
Honestly, if I were Dekachan, I would probably bring Berserker and Metacham, like in the back, like one of them in the lead or both of them in the back, because not like, I actually noticed that neither of them either of them play Berserker this entire time.
We might have seen one. There's so many matches, Ram. I thought we saw one very early, but maybe not.
Just in this bout, I don't think we've seen Berserker. I think we've only seen Dedenne and Snorlax and Rainy Castform from Dial-Up's side, and I think we've only seen Frostlass, Metacham, Gliscor, I think, and Rainy Castform today. We haven't even seen a single Berserker, I don't believe, not this bout.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. But it is tough when there's sort of no hard answer to the Snorlax. But let's get into it. We'll see if Dial-Up can sort of achieve the 5-0 sweep, or if Dekachan can push it back to the 4-1 to try and reduce that Elite TM's lead that they are generating now, with a Rainy Castform into a Gliscor lead and a quick swap into a Rainy Castform mirror, actually. I mean, Dial-Up's got the Dedenne ready to swap, but we know Dial-Up. He's going to get a charge move ready first.
Let's see. And he does bait with the Weather Ball first. I want to see if this will go shielded.
Oh my gosh.
We do get a shield. I do understand, though, because Dial-Up is playing very aggressively.
Oh, absolutely. I know, knowing that Rainy Castform had an energy advantage, Dekachan trying to get any advantage they can by shielding up the Thunder, but unfortunately getting called there. And now Dial-Up able to swap into the electric type Dedenne. We'll have to eat 2 Weather Balls here. Dial-Up actually deciding to burn a shield on the second one. Does not want to get water gunned down, so wants to keep his Dedenne a little bit healthy so that he can comfortably get to a move. Dial-Up always going to count that move so that he can get the move. Actually going to see the Water Weather Ball coming out first, so putting Dial-Up in a bit of a tricky spot where he's sort of forced to shield again so we can try and get his energy off.
Let's see. So this is actually the first time we've seen both Dial-Up shields gone so early, but we can assume that energy for Dedenne is gonna be pretty useful later on. Given the fact that only that pretty much Dekachan's team, neither of them resist play rough, and players gonna be doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It is a very scary mon to be up against, and Gliscor not going to enjoy these playoffs at all for sure. Just going to no-shield it, though, because, I mean, we'll be able to take it, but it brings it under half health in a single playoff, and now able to swap back into the Rainy Castform. It looks like a catch onto the Dedenne. Still not going to love taking these Water Weather Balls, and we actually still get a shield out of Dekachan, which is really unfortunate, but now it means that Dedenne will outpace to this discharge, so Dekachan counting and making sure they get this Thunder discharge off right before the Water Weather Ball can come through. And so now actually does able to KO the Rainy Castform, which means it's going to be down to this Snorlax and the lack of energy it's actually got. But I think maybe can take a play rough and then just needs a body slam to KO this Dedenne.
And then that's the main thing here. Being 0 shields down versus a whole healthy Shadow Snorlax is not the best thing in the world, man. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
It feels like it should be squishier than it is. I don't understand how it can still be so bulky. Snorlax, absolute dummy thick here, throwing another body slam to take out the Dedenne, and here's that little bit of health on the Gliscor in the back, swapping into to potentially catch onto the Dedenne, but Dialab, actually it's hard to tell with the videos being ever so slightly delayed, so I think it was a potentially nice catch, but Dekachan staying calm and reserved and farming up past the move, but unfortunately Snorlax is only 2 licks away and he's oh no, he's in the Night Flash, come on! Wow. Dekachan's done it.
Bro,
wow,
bro, that was literally so close. That was so close, but you were absolutely right in saying that Snorlax is dummy thick, just because of the fact that like it makes no sense why it's that tanky in Great League. I understand Ultra League, but in Great League, it feels like it gets off a body slam sooner than it should. It survives longer than it should.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we can see on the series layout here, we've got a 4-1 from Dialab, pushing the Elite TMs into the lead now. Dialab's actually in the chat and he said that he did miscount on that last one there, but really, really nice catch coming through from the Metal Raptors for sure, and absolutely secured. Like if that catch didn't happen, you know, we would not have seen, or the lack of catch, sorry, the calmness, the making sure that he didn't throw the move sort of immediately, sort of secured that win so that it did not become a 5-0 situation, which would make it very much harder for the Metal Raptors to recover here. But I mean, it now brings it, I believe, to, if I can count, 4, 7, we're up to 11-9, I think we're actually looking at. So, you know, Elite TMs still with a 2-game lead, but there's still 3 matchups to go, so we're sort of not out of the woods yet.
Not yet.
But look, regardless, I think that, I mean, next up we've got a Great League set, an Echo set, and a Master League set. So sort of going back to the sort of specialists in the more traditional fields. So next up, I mean, again, we didn't really mention this before, we'll re-mention it before Ultra League, but I think in Great League, we are seeing, again, a sort of bring a team of 8, block 2, so 2 cannot be banned, and then able to ban 2 out of the overall team as well. So they're still bringing it down to teams of 6s, but we're actually going to be seeing, I believe, Silph versus Nava Empire. Silph coming in, actually, I won't spoil the teams. I'm not even casting this one, but regardless, we will be sort of. Oh, hang on, message in the. Oh no, yeah. We'll be getting the scores up on the screen as well soon enough. But regardless, we're sort of getting set here that. Oh, hello. There's the score up there. We've got Elite TMs at 11 to the Metal Raptors 9. So getting really close. Again, first way team. So Elite TMs, they still need to win 7 more battles, which like isn't the easiest feat when you're up against a team like the Metal Raptors, who have won 2 out of these 4 matchups. Like it's sort of 2-2 in that sense.
Right, exactly. It's always, especially against such high skilled players, it's always so difficult to be able to call what's the strategy going to be, what's the team count going to be, what core are they going to use against me. I can only assume they're going to try this, but then you get RPS. But it can always go either way. Like again, with such high skill, it always ticks up the heart rate a little bit faster every time, at least for me. So.
Oh, it's good for the health. It's good for the health. But we'll bring Delian back in here because we'll now sort of, I think we'll just sort of head straight away, sort of right into it, heading into the sort of Great League, because we've still got 3 bouts to go. Well, we keep using the wrong terminology here. There's all sorts of words in here: bout, matchup, team, battle. Who's to say? There's more battles to come. So let's jump into the next couple in the Great League with the 2 of you fine gentlemen.
Of course. Delian, what's happening, man?
Not too bad. It looks like there were some very exciting battles there. Shadow Snorlax, clearly well, now we've identified why Medicham needs counter. That's all I'm going to say to that.
Very true. Despite the fact that Psycho Cut, people have opted in the past in Open Great League, in GBL, and in some formats, we have seen Psycho Cut, Dynamic Punch, and Psychic Medi, but honestly, with how the meta's changed so much and how comfortable people have gotten running certain Pokemon, Psycho Cut Medicham is honestly very difficult to make work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and Psycho Cut as a move, when you compare it with, say, like, Thunder Shock, Poison Sting, Mud Shot, they're super popular in some other Pokemon. It just goes to show how important counter is as a move, and especially on Medicham. But Moving swiftly from Pandemonium to very conventional Open Great League, and indeed we do have Silph versus Nava Empire, two very well-known names in their respective geographical areas, and indeed some of their reputations may even proceed to other continents as well. We can see the team on Silph's side with the Noctowl, the Vigoroth, the Dugong, which of course has had recent seasonal buffs to its movesets. The Altaria is there, a Galarian Stunfisk, and followed up by a Swampert. Rem, do you want to go through Nava Empire?
Let's see. We got Galarian Stunfisk, one of the most common Pokemon you can see in Open Great League, but for a reason, the meta's meta for a reason. We got Altaria, Vigoroth, and Alolan Ninetales, Lickitung, and Quagsire.
So I'm interested to see how this Quagsire plays out, because it too has had some nice buffs with the new season. Access to Mud Bomb has been very handy for it. I'd also be very interested to see if the Alolan Ninetales will be running Charm on Nava Empire's side, because I think it does give it some advantages over Dugong from Silph's side. So Silph might be reading into that and thinking, okay, I probably could expect a Charmer. This might make my Galarian Stunfisk a little bit more advantageous. But then that Swampert also looking very safe against Nava Empire's team, with the exception, of course, of that Altaria. So perhaps we should not deliberate too much on these teams and see what magic these two players pull out in Open Great League. We've seen a lot of these Pokemon and seen how strong they are in various tournaments over the years, both on Silph as well as in the official circuit now. But let's see the magic happen again with Great League. Any thoughts from you, Rem?
Say it again?
Any thoughts from you?
I would say that both Silph and Nava's teams are very, very similar. You can literally see them having the ice types, the Vigoroth, the Galarian Stunfisk, the Mudboy, and the Altaria, and the normal types. So let's see what happens here.
So it's a battle of the flyers at the moment, with Noctowl going in against Altaria. But of course, the Dragon Breath is very high damage, but the wing attacks are generating that energy a lot more quickly. So Noctowl is able to rush to those charge moves a lot more quickly than Altaria can, and decides to square off and launch the first Sky attack onto Nava Empire's Altaria. And Nava Empire, of course, choosing to no shield this one, as this will do respectable chip damage at best.
Of course. Usually in this scenario, is it better for Altaria to go for straight Sky Attack or try to go for a Moonblast debuff?
Oh, it's a good question. I think I personally would opt towards Sky Attack in most cases, just because you're getting the same type attack bonus with Sky Attack, and with Moonblast you're really hoping for that debuff to activate nice and early on. There are some instances where it might be worth launching the Moonblast first, but generally here you'd launch Sky Attacks back to back as soon as you can, and this is indeed what these two trainers are doing. And now no shields exchanged, but the Altaria is very, very weak at this point, and Vigoroth coming in from Silph's start to try and farm down, and that is answered to by Nava Empire's Vigoroth. But interestingly, their Silph here going for the body slam, because despite it not being super effective, it still does more damage than Brick Rate, I believe.
Oh, I do think I know what Silph's gonna do here. She doesn't want to reveal Brick Break just yet. I can tell, you can tell kind of by how she's still opting for body slam, that Brick Break might come in handy later on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense here. So it's most of the time with Vigoroth, you tend to see Bulldoze, and indeed that is what Nava Empire is running in this situation. So they are just facing off against each other, exchanging body blows here with the body slams. And I think at this point, Silph's Vigoroth is probably going to call it a day. But it does leave a respectable amount of... Oh no, the Vigoroth survives by just the skin of its teeth. And now the Swampert can get some excellent farm. So really well played by Silph there to get a lot of farm there. And now we've identified this Alolan Ninetales is the Powder Snow variant, not the Charm variant. But look at the second move on Silph's side, Rem. Look at that.
Look at the moveset. Oh no shield on the Ninetales there. But I can totally understand trying to not reveal the moveset too early in the bout. It's because you want to catch your opponent by surprise, especially if you're running like Sledgeblade Swampert and Break Vigoroth. I want to see if that comes into play later on. But right now, let's see if there's going to be a shield coming on this Swampert.
I think it makes sense because this Swampert is not a shadow variant. It can tank a lot more of the powder snows and weather balls here. Tries to get a catch here, doesn't quite manage it, but nonetheless the hydro cannon has to come off at this point because Swampert is so low on health that it needs to launch something before it gets taken out by the dragon breaths. But now you have Silph with two Pokemon that are both very, very low on health, and there is a risk that Alolan Ninetales just might be able to powder snow down everything. And there is the first win there from Navar Empire, who is able to just powder snow down two very weak Pokemon. There's a lot of fantastic tactics by Silph to get as much farm in, but ultimately not enough to pick up this first win. And the recovery period on Metal Raptors' side begins now as they look to reassert that lead that they had early on and recover from what Dial-Up did in the last bout. So 1-0 to Navar Empire, but still plenty to play for, and we know how talented Silph is, so we certainly won't count her out anytime soon.
Very true, very true. I do want to see if Dugong has a lot of good play here. Dugong having Icy Wind, we've seen with the buff to its moveset, adding Drill Run, it could potentially do a lot of damage to Nava's team comp, either Pokemon taking neutral or super effective damage from Dugong's entire moveset. Like it's a bit like there's only a couple Pokemon on that team that take only neutral. It's only Ninetales taking neutral from Drill Run and Vigoroth taking neutral from both the moves, but I'd like to see if Dugong has a safe switch could potentially make a difference for Silph's team comp.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. I'm a little bit uncertain about that, just simply because of the Stone Edge from the Quagsire and the Power Whip from the Lickitung. So there are 4 Pokemon there that can dish out super effective damage on the Dugong, but none of them can do that exceedingly quickly. Dugong can easily get the Icy Wind off first in most cases, with the exception of the Galarian Stunfisk, perhaps. So there might be an argument for using Dugong to lure out a counter and then keeping something in the back and going a bit sort of ABB in that style. But I'm not going to claim I'm as talented as any of these two fine battlers here, so I dare not second guess them too much. And so let's go into game 2 imminently and see what magic that they conjure up for those watching in the in the chat. Those of you in the chat, if you have any comments or any preferences as to who you reckon is going to win this one, by all means do make some noise in there of what you think. So we see Silph has just locked in against Navar Empire there, so we're just waiting for the battles to load, and in comes the Noctowl against the Alolan Ninetale, so immediately an advantage to Navar Empire here, don't you think?
Very much so, very much so. Let's see if Nava decides to swap out or stay in to at least do a bit of chip damage to the Vigoroth. Oh, a little bit late on that Weather Ball. It did tap it before, but let a couple turns go through. Silph is not going to shield her Vigoroth immediately. We do see a swap in to the opposing Vigoroth, which is literally pretty much how Open Greatly goes with Vigoroth. You swap in your own Vigoroth into another Vigoroth. That's how it goes. And we're going to no shield this Body Slam, even though Silph has a bit of energy, so she may be able to reach another one very soon here.
Yes, absolutely. You're right in your assessment there. So I think no shielding the first Body Slam and then shielding the next in order to go for the farm down on Navar Empire's side. So now there will be plenty of energy on this Vigoroth and Navar Empire, enough that he has a Bulldoze ready to go, although there's no real need to launch a Bulldoze. So Noctowl does come in at this point, so these counters are going to be doing neutral damage here, but the Body Slam's also doing a respectable amount of damage. So Vigoroth here is just looking to lock and load and launch as much of its energy out as possible before it gets taken out by the Noctowl. And here comes the next Body Slam here, and it's one counter off another. No shield on Silph's side. This Noctowl is taking a beating right now and is standing just about strong.
Very much so, until Vigoroth reaches one more Body Slam, and I'm sure that Silph is feeling the pressure from all those Body Slams coming out. It's because Vigoroth with energy is so devastating and difficult to deal with. But now both Silph and Nava are down to shield, but Silph has a lot of energy on a Noctowl. So are we going to see a shield come out soon if Silph can get to the next Sky attack before Ninetales can get to a Weather Ball?
Yes, that's going to be a little bit of a race, although there's an immediate swap into the Swampert here. And Nava Empire says, okay, thank you. I will chip away at this Swampert as well and use my Weather Ball here to do a bit of damage. And then it's a question of, do I swap into the Quagsire? And yes, Nava Empire does choose to swap into the Quagsire here. Now, generally, Swampert does have an advantageous matchup against Quagsire, but now with the introduction of Mud Bomb, which can keep pace with the Hydro Cannon in terms of energy requirements, it's not a little bit more even. Mud Bomb will do enough damage at this range to either KO or bring Swampert into the red. So Silph wants to avoid this and chooses to shield and get in order to get off another Hydro Cannon imminently as well. But it is a charge attack priority event, and Swampert wins that one. So that is very fortunate for Silph there.
Very, very fortunate. I'm wondering, in open is oh no, but it lives by 1 HP because Quagsire, being Nod Shadow, is very, very bulky. So let's see if Bum Bomb being buffed a little bit in terms of damage. Swampert does live with a tiny bit of HP, but is it going to be enough? Oh, Soap to swap back in the Noctowl to get a bit ahead on energy, and that Ninetales is energy dry, so Soap's going to be able to get off this Sky Attack here, but Nava does have another shield left.
And I think it was a really good play by Silph to just get enough energy to have that Hydro Cannon banked on the Swampert, I believe, before swapping into the Noctowl to finish that farm off and get one wing attack closer to a Sky Attack. So Nava Empire eliminates the Noctowl. And actually, no, it was just one mud shot away. Sorry, I miscounted that. I thought the Swampert did have the Hydro Cannon banked, but sadly not. And therefore, Nava Empire really demonstrating just how lethal the Metal Raptors are here, going 2-0 now and well in the way now to recovering and making it 11 apiece as things stand. Though, like I said, there's 2 matches in, there's 3 more to go. And we've seen how many of these bouts have gone to 2-3 or 3-2. So let's not count out Silph just yet. But so far, advantage Nava Empire very much so as we go into game 3 very, very imminently.
Very, very much so. I do want to ask one thing, though. Are shadows allowed in open Great League faction bouts?
They are indeed, yes. So shadows are fine. So there is obviously discussions to be had as to whether you want to use a shadow or not, depending on whether you need that extra bulk. This is a relatively even matchup here. The Vigoroth does take dish out resisted fast move damage, but the body slams are a lot more spammy than Altaria's Dragon Breath fueled Sky Attacks here. So then an immediate swap after that body slam into the Quagsire, and let's see now whether Nava Empire is going to try and go for the Stone Edge here to hit this Altaria, or whether Silph is going to shut the door and swap out herself. And there is indeed a swap out there. So let's see now what the next plan of action is here. Is it going to be that Mud Bomb spam, do you reckon?
Pretty much here, I would understand that throwing Mud Bomb here is more effective than throwing straight Stone Edge, even though Stone Edge would do more damage. You aren't going to be able to get to another move if you throw Stone Edge, but throwing double Mud Bomb, which is stab, is going to do a lot more damage to Vigoroth in the long run and potentially pressure a shield. But we see Soap getting ahead on energy here with the body slams, getting up to about 100 energy, forcing CMP. Vigoroth wins the CMP, but we don't see a shield here.
Yes, I think it was Silph was trying to just get as much out of it as possible, so that when the next Pokemon comes in, there's not actually that many great choices for Nava Empire here. So because both Pokemon are weak to counter, but Silph is able to get this body slam off straight away after pretty much one counter and chip away at this Vigoroth, and will maybe get to another. No, isn't able to get to another. So now this Vigoroth has a little bit of energy, but the Altaria looks like a very solid option at this point. So let's see what happens now. A swap into Galarian Stunfisk and Altaria staying in, trying to farm up a bit more, and now brings in that Dugong. But that's what I think is significant here, Rem, is that the Galarian Stunfisk got enough energy for Rock Slide pretty early on. That might be problematic.
Very, very, actually a lot, because the fact that Dugong came in a little bit too late there, you aren't able to even get to the Ice Beam before they get to the next Rock Slide, so it's going to be very rough, especially if Vigoroth comes back in early and gets energy, and the fact that Galarian Stunfisk has still 2 shields up, so you're going to have to at least try to get a shield early on here, but Galarian Stunfisk is bulky enough where it doesn't have to shield the first move, which Nava decides to do right here.
Yes, I think this is sensible, because I think Nava Empire is recognizing that Silph is likely going to go for the debuffing Icy Wind rather than the Drill Run here. Both moves require the same amount of energy, so he's second guessing, thinking she's probably going to try and Icy Wind to get the debuff and try and soften up the rock slide damage that I do. So I think it's okay for me to risk not shielding this first one. And now, as Galarian Stunfisk is taking more chip damage, chooses to shield the second Icy Wind and stay in the game here. And an immediate swap out straight after that, and responded to by Silph's immediate swap out, and the the body slam is launched first on Vigoroth's side to chip damage on this Altaria here.
And Silph get to farm down before they get to another body slam. Oh my gosh, the Vigoroth gets to another body slam at 1 HP. That's what I really have a hard time dealing with when it comes to body slam users. They can only get to one with 1 HP left, and that can usually be the deciding factor of the game.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and I think this might be significant here. Dugong is able to get one more Ice Shot in, and is able to launch its Icy Wind first. But Galarian Stunfisk does have a shield here. Now we know Galarian Stunfisk will be able to outpace to that next rock slide soon after that. And there's no shields left. There's literally no escape at this point. And now going for a little bit of a flex here, going for the Earthquake, which we know will do a huge amount of damage. It is the same type attack bonus. And look at the damage on that as Dugong goes down and out. Wow.
Yeah, wow. I do want to. I feel like here it's a bit rough because Vigoroth is usually the turning point of the game. Usually when they swap in their own Vigoroth, that's usually if you already have an energy advantage, that's what can decide the safe swap. But we do get a Vigoroth mirror lead this time instead of a safe switch. Who's going to swap out first?
Yes, that is going to be the key thing. Or are they going to mutually eliminate each other by double shielding and investing shields at the same time? Both of them going for body slams at broadly similar times. If that is a charge attack priority event, Silph's Vigoroth has the more attack and is able to launch first, which may prove advantageous here. And yes, it was indeed a charge attack priority event. So both sides choosing to no shield their first Vigoroths and save their shields for the back lines further down. So let's see which one goes first, or whether there's a switch here. Will there be a race here? Yes, there is, and there is another exchange, CMP exchange here, and this time Navarampai chooses to no shield. I'm guessing he wants to farm down. What do you think?
I think he definitely wanted to farm down here, but I would say that their backlines are very RPS. I think that Silph would be safer if she brought in her Altaria here, but being able to get shields with Swampert is also pretty advantageous, so I want to see who she brings in. Very smart in bringing in the Altaria here. I think she might know that Nava might have the G-Fisk in the back.
Yes, and I think that is a very good read. And this is something you kind of expect from high-level skilled players, where they can kind of make a second guess at what the backline is or make a educated call on that. And I think here it's very much sensible. Now it's just a matter of trying to manage it, and does get a beautiful catch by Navarampai there. Beautiful, brilliant stuff. Wow.
I was really thinking that Silph was going to throw the Sky Attack earlier there. And I was hoping that it wouldn't be a catch. That's always the worst feeling, especially when you think, oh, I can overcharge here, and they won't swap out. But they do get the catch of the Sky Attack on there. Now, Altaria's energy is empty, isn't it? Is it maybe a couple Dragon Breaths worth?
No, very little, if that, probably only 1 or 2 at best. I think it was a pretty swift swap there into the Swampert, but a bait as well by Navarampai here, and Silph falls for the bait here as well, which might be a bit problematic, but I think Silph will be able to rush to another Hydro Cannon before another Earthquake is launched by Galarian Stunfisk. But now Galarian Stunfisk also shielding. Galarian Stunfisk is very keen to get these shields out of the way on Silph's side, which is why they are staying in, despite being such a negative matchup. And here comes the Earthquake, and actually there's no shields left. So this is what Galarian Stunfisk was going for, and this is a huge amount of damage on Swampert. Wow.
Very much. And a catch again with the Mud Bomb. Wow. Oh, this is looking really rough. I was at least hoping that if the Hydro Cannon got off there, maybe Altaria might have had a chance. But with G-Fisk being relatively healthy and having a Quagsire that knows Stone Edge, it's going to be a rough climb.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think there we saw an example of what, like when you switch on CMP, but then generally Swampert wins CMP against Quagsire always, but unless my statistics has gone out the window, sorry. So I was interested to see that Quagsire switch in and still be able to launch before the Swampert does. So fair play on that one. That's a very brave attempt here, but it clearly worked as this final Stone Edge lands and eliminates Silph's Altaria. And now we're looking, we saw a big sweep on a big sweep on the last bout, but now we're seeing the reverse sweep beginning to unfold on Navi Empire's side for the Metal Raptors, trying to recover that lead. We did talk about whether it would be like this, where one side would jump a little bit, and the other side not necessarily panics, but kind of goes, nope, I'm making this difficult. And now the pressure is really on Silph to try and secure at least one win and go from there and try and at least recover a little bit of ground for her faction.
It is rough. It's like, but I think that this is some of the potentially best open Great League plays that I've ever seen in any open format for factions. Just because like there's so many calls here, so many strategies you see players trying to pull off, and all of a sudden they're just shut down so quickly. It's insane.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's wild. It's wild seeing these players at the top of their game. So I think we're currently 4-0, and I believe there's one match left to play potentially from Silph's side. So when that comes up, we will see if we do get potentially our first 5-0 sweep. We've not seen that in this World Championship finals yet, but it would be perhaps exciting to see, although perhaps less so for the Elite TMs. But Silph is a very strong opponent, and I wouldn't put anything past securing a win. This is a reasonable matchup here, pretty even. Vigoroth's counters will do a lot more damage than Quagsire's mud shots, but the mud bomb has been buffed. So let's see if now Silph chooses to play around with some of the spicier move sets that she's brought in. So let's see what happens here as the first body slam gets launched.
Let's see. Now, Quagsire throws straight Stone Edge here. I wonder if that's more of a lead scenario. If you want to throw straight Stone Edge, and then do you survive another body slam to get another Stone Edge, or does it even matter at that point? You go straight for the mud bomb here.
Yeah, I wonder if Navi Empire was banking on Silph over farming a little bit, perhaps, or trying to. Oh no, just about survive. Oh, what brilliant knowledge by Navi Empire to know he would just about survive that. Wow, that's a really brave and right call to no shield at that point. And the same in reverse. Wow.
Wow, and then the instant swap in to get that counter worth of energy, and potentially saving that Quagsire for a sack swap later on.
Yes, that's a good assessment there. However, one downside to this move is now that you're locked in against Silph's Noctowl, which is a reasonably even matchup for this Vigoroth, but you can see what's in the back. You've got Navi Empire's Altaria, and well, he doesn't know it yet, but Silph has a Dugong in the back. So this Vigoroth is so important to Navi Empire, and he may not even realize it. So let's see if this Noctowl is able to chip away even more at the Vigoroth. So the second shield, is that going to be used? No shield on the Vigoroth here. So now this Vigoroth's going to be quite low on health, which might prove problematic going forward. We'll see.
Yeah, that Vigoroth is loading up an energy right now, though. So I'm wondering if actually, never mind. I forgot that Silph has 2 shields. So I think Dugong can actually just 2 shield and win this whole game just from farming down the Vigoroth.
Yes, that's right. I think that is exactly what's going to happen. Vigoroth can throw as much energy out into this Dugong as possible. Silph is just going to put 2 shields into this Dugong. It's so versatile, it's so bulky, and those ice shards do chip away at a respectable amount of damage. Navi Empire just goes, nope, I need to get as much of damage out on this as possible. And does Silph chooses to no shield this one, because even then it does very little. And now it's tricky. What do you do here if you're Navi Empire? You're trapped, aren't you?
Yeah, you have to shield the Icy Wind or try to catch one, but unfortunately does not catch. Like I said, that Quagsire had to be used as a sack swap later on. And then this is the only time that Nava's brought that Altaria. We haven't seen it yet, and now that we finally see it, Silph was able to lock the Dugong onto it.
Yes, and I think Navi Empire recognizes he's got no win condition here, and it's just like, yep, let's not take too much time on this. I've got 4 wins here. Silph really good on the alignment there, and was able to have switch advantage early on and held on to that in order to make it 4-1 in favor of the Metal Raptors. So that has evened out the Pandemonium loss, and now we are back to a situation where we are. Well, I'm just thinking 3, 6, 10. I think it's 10 wins apiece. Is that right? No, wait, no, that's more than that. I can't count, can I?
Yeah, you could.
But yeah, so it's the scores now are just one win in favor of Elite TMs with 13-12, I believe. So it's all to play for still for both sides as they rush towards the first to 18 wins. If I'm banking on Steve's knowledge, not mine, because I'm trusting Steve with everything.
No, I'm with you right there, man.
So, Wax, next we have our next bout of Echo, I think, coming on soon. And then, of course, we will finish up with Master League. But I think Steve is back in the room with us and soon will be appearing on stream. How are you doing, sir? Oh, he's back. He's just appeared, as if by magic.
Popped in. It's like Adelian has summoned me in. Oh, but no. Like, this is just like... You can't write this stuff with the just trading back and forth of like who's in the lead, and like, you know, Dialap tears away with the 4-1, and then we see the 4-1 come straight back from Nava Empire. Like, this is some really high class stuff, and again, it just goes to show that we are in the World Championships. And I counted on my fingers in the background, and I was like, yeah, it is first to 18. 18 plus 18, 36, 35 is 7 times 5, so 18 is good.
Good math on this man. Jesus.
They call me the calculator.
What I've just realized is when you're trying to like do this kind of like what I would class as like relatively simple arithmetic, and then you realize that when you're on stream or when you're under some kind of pressure, slightly pressurized situation, your ability to do mathematics just goes down the pan. You're too busy talking,
it's gone.
commentating, it's just gone. And now taking that thought, if you're like, let's say you're competing in the World Championships, either in Silph or you're going to Japan for the Play Pokemon ones, and the pressure you're under there, it really does hit home just the talent, the skill of some of the players including some of the players in this factions bout, at how they can operate at the creme de la creme of competency, even when they're under this much pressure. Really, you got to give a big shout out to just how talented they are. So yeah, big shout out to the talents, and also to the folk who all allow us to see all the magic that happens, be it again on Play Pokemon or indeed on Silph or other grassroots formats as well. So we want to give I personally want to put myself up on the pedestal and say, give a big shout out to Miss Mystic and to Nightwing, who did a lot of work in the background. And indeed, Miss Mystic still is doing a lot of work in the background to set up this stream for us to see the magic that happens with the Silph Arena. So big clap for them.
I'm still learning how YouTube works, but I'm seeing like little claps show up in the right hand side of the chat box. I thought that it happened when you typed in the word clap, but it seems like I've completely noobed out, and that is not how it works at all. Maybe it's on mobile YouTube streams and on desktop, but yeah, massive shout out to Miss Mystic and of course Nightwing, and of course all of the battlers from both factions have sort of sent us in all of these battles so that we can sort of get all of this going, because I mean, without that footage, we wouldn't have a lot to talk about in this stream here. So big shout out to both the Elite TMs and the Metal Raptors for doing some really good work as well. But we've got 2 matchups left to go, so we're going to be jumping into the last bout of the Echo Field, the last field meta of the stream. So Adelian and I will be taking that one away. So let's get into it. And we've got...
Let's go.
Yeah. Is that a slight Mario?
Oh yeah. Oh, that was not even a slight. That was a very much a Mario.
Okay,
wrong franchise. Let's save that for another time.
Other Nintendos, but we've got we can bring the teams up here. We have S James P21 versus Trainer 1230866. I might not be able to read one of those 6s was an 8. My bad, but regardless, 2628. But we've got the teams
his phone
here.
number.
We've got, it's someone, like, please dial up in the background.
Just try it out and see what happens. It's like whenever you lose against him in GBL or in a battle, you can text him going, "I can't believe I lost to you."
I mean,
Imagine
look,
that.
it's happened before. There was that one trainer who had their phone number up as them name on the
Yes.
Play Pokemon stage. So you never know. You never know. But with the teams we've got in front of us, Echo Field again, sort of a throwback to some earlier metas. We can see that S. James has got the Quagsire, Umbreon, Alolan Sand / Dragonair, Regirock, and Cofagrigus, and trainer numbers is running Swampert, Umbreon, Drapion, Quagsire, Galvantula, and the Quillfish. Galvantula being the really big pick in that earlier Echo Field matchup. This one probably not as dominant. Maybe if it's running Energy Ball, it could do a little bit better potentially, but I don't know. What are you seeing here, Adelian?
I'm excited to see the Hisuian Quillfish make an appearance. Do you remember that? Do you remember what was it? It was that Ember meta where Hisuian Quillfish was the must-have Pokemon. So it's giving me echoes of that, pun intended. But it will be a very nice matchup here. Has access to the Aqua Tail to do respectable chip damage on the Regirock, and obviously has a large amount of different moves. You can run Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Dark Pulse, and I believe Ice Beam as well, if memory serves. Someone in the chat will probably correct me at this point if I'm wrong. But that versatility, especially thank you, especially as a faction in a factions meta where you can TM before as when you see your opponent's team. I find Pokemon with this kind of versatility is very, very handy, and this is where Hisuian Quillfish, I think, will really stand out as an exciting pick to cause a bit of carnage and pandemonium.
Oh, well, wrong meta for that, but Pandemonium meta was a couple bouts ago. But regardless, we do have the Echo Field here, and I do love the echoes of those previous metas. Even if Ember got a pretty bad rap, especially through its, well, I mean, look, again, I say this every time that we sort of dunk on the Ember Field, but the wing attack buff did happen after the Ember Field was released, which did unfortunately adjust, one, how important Charizard was, and then how important Quillfish was in return for that Aqua Tail buff action. But regardless, not going to be as dominant here, but still definitely has a place with that. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what the moveset is, but we'll jump into it. Matchup number 6 between S. James and Trainer. If the Metal Raptors take out a 5-0 here, they would win the bout on the spot. So Elite TMs just need to get at least one battle sort of sorted out here, and then we will be in a spot where it'll all come down to the 7th matchup. But we have the Dragonair going into the Umbreon, a very neutral matchup here. So we'll see how this ends up playing out and who decides to swap out, because we have 2 Quagsires in the back and an Umbreon versus Galvantula, which definitely lies in favor of trainer numbers. And it's a quick swap into the Umbreon trying to catch a move, but here's the Galv.
And here's a little bit of spice as well. The Galvantula is running Fury Cutter and Energy Ball. You mentioned that, Steve. So this is going to make things a little bit more challenging for S. James, who has the will now have to count based on Fury Cutter timings rather than Volt Switch timings. So it really does come down to how knowledgeable is he of Fury Cutter as a fast move for generating energy from this Pokemon. As the first lunge comes in to reduce the attack power of the Umbreon, but now last resort coming in, looking to do that extra bit of damage and maybe potentially KO the Galv. I'm not sure this will happen though. Oh, it does! Oh no, it doesn't!
Oh no, it doesn't! Oh wow, the attack debuff from the first lunge becoming absolutely key, barely hanging on to get that one last lunge through, flipping over the switch advantage to Trainer 1, 2, 3. Oh, absolutely huge. And now, or maybe not as huge, because now we have a Quag versus Quag, but we've got one Quagsire with Water Gun here and Acid Spray Mud Bomb. This is absolutely wild. While the other Quagsire is running double ground, this is an absolute, there are wacko movesets going on in the Echo Field, it seems. We've got the Mud Bomb landing onto the Quagsire, who is going for the, I think that was a Mud Bomb as well. So just throwing a sort of little bits of damage back and forth. But I'm really excited for those back movesets to be revealed, Adelian.
Oh yes, absolutely. But you can see that this is the beauty of factions. There is an advantage here to having just ground moves, because there's nothing really that gets hit for super effective damage on S. James's side. So double ground is a sensible answer. Plus, same thing, it tries to get a catch in. The catch is successful as Umbreon does tank the Mud Bomb from S. James's side. I bet S. James was hoping maybe he should have launched an Acid Spray at that point, because that would have really ruined Umbreon's day. But it is a charge attack priority event on top of that. Wow.
Yes, so much happening in this one little moment of the game, but now S. James's Quagsire going down, and in comes that Dragonair to sort of soak up a little bit more damage. Does have the Dragon Pulse in addition to the Body Slam here. Could kind of go either way. I feel like the back-to-back Body Slam potentially could be one way to go, but we have the Foul Play coming into the Dragonair and now farming up tons of energy, but here comes the first Body Slam, really hoping to try and get a shield out of Trainer, and there's the first one before a second Body Slam. Or maybe, I mean, you could farm up to a Dragon Pulse here. We'll see.
Chooses not to, but yes, it would have been a potential idea, but I think you would have to have tanked another Foul Play in order to do that. And so the next Body Slam comes in, chipping away respectively at this Umbreon just before it's able to get to a Foul Play, and then now the Foul Play comes in and this time a shield on S. James's side, so he's looking to farm this Umbreon down and come out with a fair bit of energy on his Dragonair, but there is a switch into the Quagsire, and it's a race, and the race that Quagsire wins, and therefore the Mud Bomb gets launched, which at this range would be KO the Dragonair. So the shield wisely comes out.
Yeah, so S. James preserving their Dragonair and will comfortably be able to Dragon Breath down now. Still has to contend with a shield on the other side, but I think with no energy on that Umbreon, will be comfortably able to Dragon Breath down that as well and take out the very first game, pushing Elite TMs into a 13-13 tie, which does mean that we will, regardless of result of the next four, be going into another set. But we have game two coming on here already with S. James's Dragonair facing into that Quagsire as well. We still haven't seen the sort of Earthquake or Mud Bomb action, the Earthquake action come out. So we'll see if that does sort of play out in this game. We have the Umbreon into the Quagsire now. And, I mean, is it Earthquake time? There's a better time for it. Oh, never mind. We do get it.
Oh, that's the downside with these surprise moves. If you don't expect them, you would have seen. I think maybe S. James was hoping it would come in the first game, but here's the thing. Revealing the Earthquake now against the Umbreon, sure, it did a fair amount of damage, but it didn't actually change all that much. The Umbreon is still healthy, is still able to do a fair amount of damage here. I suppose on Trainer's side, he was just looking to ensure that maximum damage was done on the Umbreon so that this mirror match is always in his favor, and maybe a Mud Bomb would not be enough to tip things in that favor, but an Earthquake will. So that makes sense. I just question whether revealing it so early on will prove disadvantageous later on.
Yeah, it would have been really nice to sort of land that huge surprise onto, say, an unsuspecting Alolan Sandslash that may have thought that it was able to tank it. But now, with the moveset revealed, I mean, it may have won a game. We'll just have to wait and see how it does play out here. But the Water Gun Quagsire coming back in, still such a pleasure to be able to see when you've got that sort of ground, relatively quick, fast move with the Mud Bomb. You can really rely on that Water Gun damage just that little bit more and comfortably able to tank another charge move from Umbreon as well. So in no huge rush to throw those charge moves, comfortably just sitting back, taking another Foul Play. We'll be able to farm up a little bit more energy and then finally start throwing some energy. We actually see a swap out into Swampert though. So the Mud Bombs are going to start adding up here. S. James still not wanting to reveal that Acid Spray, has decided it is not time yet. We can just keep throwing some Mud Bombs to weaken this Swampert down because he can comfortably get to a second one here.
Yes, you're quite right. So two Mud Bombs down. This Swampert is now going to be very, very low. But no, a shield does come in, so that's fine. And now I wonder if Swampert's looking just farm up as much as possible before launching its Hydro Cannon. And now that does take out the Quagsire here. And then it's a question of what is it going to come in here. Umbreon comes in, immediately tries to throw, but does lose charge attack priority. And Swampert is able to eliminate an Umbreon that had so much energy, Steve, if you recall.
Yeah, really, really unfortunate. But deciding that the Dragonair with two shields is more important and able to Dragon Breath down just barely, taking that Swampert down. There is still two shields on this Dragonair now, and it's got to do some work to take out the rest of Trainer 123's team. Bringing in the Quagsire, definitely a nice, I think probably the right play in the end to try and keep this Dragonair alive, because there's still a lot of work to do here with the Mud Bombs coming out pretty quick from the Quagsire. So getting the last shield out of Trainer 123 side with that Body Slam, now going to probably have to shield two Mud Bombs. There's potential for an Earthquake here, but no Earthquake on this one. And then actually going to see a swap out into the opposing Umbreon. But you can sort of comfortably no shield from the Umbreon and then keep your shield for the Quagsire. But S. James deciding to just body slam to try and take this Umbreon out instead. So they don't even have to contend with the foul play.
Yes, absolutely. And now the body slam that coming in onto this Quagsire, which will either eliminate it or take it so low into the red that the Dragon Breaths will finish it off. And there we are. Into the red it goes. The Dragon Breaths come in, and it's just not able to get to another move. Even if it did, Dragonair does have a shield. So it will be able to shield that move and Dragon Breath down anyway. So another win under S. James's belt. And again, we've seen this all the time. We've had, it's been very much swings and roundabouts where one side takes the lead. Now, whichever faction is running behind gets a new breath of fresh air, and they just go, right, we're going to jump that tally up. So currently going up now, Elite TMs at 14, I believe, to 13. And now we are going to see if Trainer 123 can recover and bring this a little bit more even, and we'll see just how close this faction's world final is going to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can get into game number 3 because Elite TMs need 4 more wins. Metal Raptors need 5. So it is really getting to the point where every single battle counts here, with S. James bringing in the Dragonair into the Quagsire yet again. We can see that the Quagsire and the Umbreon are in the back. Unfortunately, we've got no video feed from Trainer's side, but we have the swap into the Umbreon. Quagsire deciding to stay in here. Again, that is the Quagsire with a Mud Bomb and Earthquake, so no Acid Sprays coming through here. And there's no real reason to not go for Earthquake after you've revealed it. So sort of happy to just do that big damage to Umbreon, and we're seeing this strategy play out again at Delium. We've got the just chip it down so that your Umbreon will be able to win switch advantage here. But S. James is again going to have a little bit of an opportunity to try and bank some energy. We'll see if it can be a little bit more useful this time though.
Yes, absolutely. So last results will be exchanged here, and I think this is going to be a question of trying to whittle down the switch timer and then see if we can make some plays at that point. But we've noticed here that this is a charge attack priority event, and S. James will have established that, assuming their attacks are not the same, that his Umbreon loses CMP, and so with that information could prove useful either in this bout or in subsequent bouts. They're not going to be the same set of IVs, as both these Umbreons have different CPs here. So I'm guessing it's very likely it's going to be a consistent CMP loss. And you can see S. James trying to swap out into that Quagsire straight away and bring in use Water Gun to his advantage. But I don't think he's revealed Acid Spray yet, has he, Steve?
No, Acid Spray still just hiding in the wings, completely unshown. So I'm just waiting for that opportunity for it to come out now. Quagsire farming up a bit of extra energy before going for that Mud Bomb, maybe trying to threaten something like an Earthquake. But regardless, the Mud Bomb is going to land here. No real reason for the Swampert to shield up there, unless they were scared of that other secondary move. But now Swampert getting really low, and the Water Gun's adding up quite a bit. But Quagsire actually going to decide to let this... Oh, it's an Earthquake as well. That definitely hurts, but we're seeing the 2-shield Dragonair come out again. Can it? No, it cannot get the full farm down. Going to have to burn a shield here. I mean, can take a Hydro Cannon. It is going to take a Hydro Cannon. Will still bring it down to about half health, but can then take out the Swampert with just Dragon Breaths. There's still an Umbreon in the back and a... Oh, what? We haven't seen the third Mon, have we?
No, I don't believe we have. Oh, well, here comes the Quagsire. To be fair, it makes sense to maybe save the shield for now, because the big threat from the Quagsire is going to be those charge attacks, whereas the Hydro Cannon isn't as big a threat. So there is a rationale to saving your shields for Dragonair at this point. Bear in mind as well, you could potentially catch with the Umbreon in the future as well and make a third shield out of it. So I think Trainer 123 recognizing that. Ooh, what have you spotted?
We saw a catch onto the Umbreon here, but...
Oh, point. Counter catch. Is that going to be counter catch? No? Okay, no. Straight away going into the body slam, eliminating the Umbreon straight away. But sorry, I was too busy talking and didn't actually register the catch. So good thing to point out there as the Umbreon goes down. So yeah, very successful catch there. And now it is that race to the Dragon Breath. Is there going to be an attempt to catch back against the Quagsire? Is he going to shield? He does shield indeed. I think that's the right call. Now it's just how much energy does this Quagsire have? How much does it have? how close is it going to be? And it is a charge attack priority event. Ooh.
This is not good. The Umbreon has energy in the back, but Trainer 123 still has a shield. They needed to get to that body slam on the. Oh no, have they got two? I think they might have two here. The first
I think you're right. They do have two. If Umbreon survives this mud shot and Quagsire does not have another move banked, then he might be able to get another one off, and he does. And Umbreon is able to get back-to-back foul plays to wipe out the Quagsire. So another by the skin of his teeth. S. James is able to get that third win. That is really, really close. How low was that, Umbreon? Wow.
No, this is absolutely ridiculous. You know, in the previous game, we saw that Umbreon just sort of had to go down to a charge move based on, with all of the energy it had stocked up. It ended up letting S. James sort of still take that one out. But this time, we're sort of seeing that Umbreon sort of become useful by still, burning the shield on the Dragonair. I was actually a bit worried at that point. I was like, oh, wait, is this going to mean that Quagsire is just going to have a move ready to go for the Umbreon in the back? Are we still going to be in some danger here? But because Quagsire had to use its energy against that Dragonair and didn't want to take too many more Dragon Breaths or else it would be KO'd, had to throw that slight little bit early and then was able to sort of recover there by throwing the move as well. But I think that looks like we've got the win on the wrong side there. I think that was what was that Trainer's win? Am I gaslighting myself here?
No, I thought it was S. James's win because he's the one.
Yeah, you're right.
Double foul play.
Yeah, against the double Mudboy line. Yeah, you're right. I was just mid-attempt at gaslighting myself, but we've come through in the end. We now have a 15-13 score for the Elite TMs, only 3 games away from being able to take it all out against the Metal Raptors. So let's get into game number 4. Trainer desperately needs to take these wins back, or else there's going to be a lot of pressure on the back matchup to see who becomes the last ever and reigning Silph Arena Factions World Champions, with the Dragonair into the Umbreon in the lead, and again the ABB double Mudboy in the back for Trainer 123.
Lovely stuff. So let's see. Then we have Dragonair going in, trying to get a catch in onto the Umbreon, doesn't get the catch, and an immediate response from Trainer 123 into the Swampert. Swampert is able to outpace, but this Umbreon has a lot of energy built in reserve. So the first foul play comes through. No real need to shield this Swampert. It can easily tank, especially with it not being a shadow. But now the threat is this double Hydro Cannon? Is this an Earthquake? S. James goes, I don't mind what it is. My Umbreon's bulky and can take it. So here comes the first Hydro Cannon. Shrugs it off, a respectable amount of damage, and now Swampert is able to get that second Hydro Cannon off, crucially, before Umbreon was able to launch that foul play.
Yeah, I mean, look, this Umbreon has been known to take an Earthquake or two in its time, mostly against that Quagsire, but now against the other Mudboy as well. We see Trainer 123 letting this foul play actually go on their Swampert, bringing it down really deep into the red, but will be able to get to this Hydro Cannon and win charge move priority against this Umbreon, and S. James deciding to let it go. I have a feeling I know which Pokemon they're intending to use their 2 shields on, and it rhymes with Dragonair, but we have the Water Gun Quagsire coming out here. Back against that Mud Shot Quagsire, we are running out of opportunity for this Acid Spray to be revealed. But, I mean, this is another matchup where maybe you just want to go for the Mud Bombs. Like, an Acid Spray debuff doesn't do too much for you with a 1-turn Water Gun, but maybe it just hits that Breakpoint or Bulk Point. But we're not going to find out today by the seams of it.
No, I think it's right to go for the Mud Bombs here and just try and churn out as much damage as possible, eliminate those shields. And here comes that Dragonair back in before Quagsire can do anything. And the Body Slams are again going to chip away at this Quagsire, but this time no shield. Quagsire happy to take that Body Slam because it only does a small amount of damage. And now Quagsire might be able to get off 2 Mud Bombs here, maybe eliminating both shields on Dragonair's side, perhaps.
Yeah, I've really threatened the Earthquake by charging all the way up there, getting a shield out of S. James. I don't think is going to be able to get to a second one, so we'll just have to go straight for the Mud Bomb. But it looks like Trainer 123 is deciding that it's worth it for the Mud Bomb, because burning their last shield there to go for this Mud Bomb now, I mean, S. James doesn't need to shield here because, again, Dragonair can tank a Mud Bomb, but he's getting relatively no... Oh, but we see the combo play with the foul play coming through from the Umbreon as well. So Dragonair deciding whether it wants to shield, and they do. They want this Dragonair to stay alive. The switch timer is almost up to be able to swap back into the Quagsire, but not up soon enough. Another foul play coming through from this Umbreon that I think will be enough to KO this Dragonair, meaning that it's all down to Quag.
Is this where the acid spray is viable? No, maybe not. Maybe not. The problem is, I think the problem is that this Umbreon can switch out, which would render the acid spray a bit worthless after that point. So I don't think he can do this. I think and it's just not worth revealing acid spray at this point if he can't lock in the Umbreon against this matchup. So I think Mud Bomb is the way to go, but I think unfortunately Quagsire just doesn't have enough in the tank to withstand oh, it's a charge attack, right? No, it isn't. Umbreon is able to just get to the foul play first, and that eliminates the Quagsire. And so Trainer 123 is able to overcome the Dragonite, sorry, not Dragonite, the Dragonair, and score his first win in this bout, I believe.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Pushing it back to a 3-1, and you can count how many Pokemon that Trainer had left. 1, 2, 3, all three surviving there on this tiniest little bit of HP, but enough to sort of get out and push through S. James, pushing it back up to, I believe, a 15-14, which means that it is really, really cooking up and getting close to one of these factions getting to 18. There's one battle left in this particular matchup, and so it's all going to be on Trainer 1, 2, 3 to try and match it back up to 15-15, or our Elite TM is going to push up to only need 2 in the next set of 5. We will just have to wait and see as we go into game number 5 in this second last set from the Factions World Championships here. And look, I'm sort of expecting that we might see that double Mud Boy strat again. It's worked before. Can it work one more time with the Dragonair going into the Umbreon with we can see that the Quag and the Umbreon are in the back for S. James, and we might have lost Trainer's 5th battle as well, but we have the swap into Umbreon, and now we get a swap into Mud Boy, potentially number 1, Swampert, coming in with that Hydro Cannon Earthquake combo. And if their playstyle has meant anything so far, I have a feeling we are going to see an Earthquake coming through relatively soon. Oh, never mind.
Okay, going straight for the Hydro Cannon instead, but this is fine. Umbreon is able to take quite a few of these Hydro Cannons, so doesn't mind launching another one. But is this going to be an Earthquake? As he did fire, Swampert did farm up a lot more energy, but no, going for another Hydro Cannon, and this time Umbreon on 100 energy gains nothing from farming up anything more, so goes straight for another foul play here to chip away at the Swampert. And will he launch again? Yes, he does launch another foul play, so this Swampert's going to be taken into the red, or a shield will come out. So let's see what decision Trainer 123 makes, choosing to let it go and go into the red.
Yeah, unfortunately, we see a charge move priority on the foul play versus the Hydro Cannon, and S. James is just going to have to let this Umbreon go. Hydro Cannon coming through, and again, we know what Pokemon they want to use their shields on, but the Quagsire is coming through, the Umbreon coming back in with the energy it stocked up from before. Quagsire can take these quite comfortably, doesn't need to be too worried about these foul plays, as Quagsire does have quite a bit of bulk to it. And this could be the spot. There is only this one game left. Surely you go for the acid spray just to try and weaken that down a little bit. Like, what have you got the acid spray for, if not for a moment just like this, where, you know, Umbreon is going to take a bit of damage from your Mud Bombs, but not an excessive amount. But it looks like no, we are just going to go for the sort of probably smarter play and going straight for those Mud Bombs to weaken down the Umbreon, bring it down into the yellow, and then we'll presumably be able to get to... I think they just let Quagsire go here and bring the Dragonair to finish the job, having to burn 1 shield on a potential foul play here. And actually go for the last resort for that extra damage as well, but it didn't KO the Quagsire. It is still there as a catch opportunity.
Yes, and that will be very handy. So yeah, it's one of those things that those fine margins, 1 HP survival on the Quagsire might prove significant. So shields are being expended because Umbreon wants to take away a shield from this Dragonair as well. But SJ is recognizing that this might be a slight desperation tactic to try and chip away at this Dragonair, which is why swapping into the Quagsire now, which does struggle when at a shield disadvantage against this Dragonair. Dragonair can just shield this all day, every day, and just go for body slams and then just Dragon Breath down. And of course, that Quagsire that S. James has may prove a useful third shield if he's able to pull it off. So just going for more and more damage here with the mud bombs, but another shield comes in, and now Dragonair is shieldless, but look how much energy that Dragonair has. Wow.
It is loaded, and it is now finally going to start to unload. The first body slam coming out onto this Quagsire. Not going to be enough to KO, and gets that last shield out of Trainer 123 as well. And now going straight for the Dragon Pulse. Needs this big amount of damage because one body slam certainly was not going to be enough. So Dragon Pulse is able to KO the Quagsire. Still have 2 Pokemon to KO in the back. Which one is Trainer 123 going to throw it first? And are we going to even get the opportunity to get this Quagsire KO? In comes the Umbreon. Then there's not enough health there. We see a Dragon Breath down, trying to catch a move onto the back, and I think that we're going to see the Umbreon come in and KO a triple Dragon Breath down, taking it out with a 4-1 for the Elite TMs. Absolutely dominant performance there, and pushing them really well out into the lead, where I believe that the Elite TMs will only need 2 more games out of this last set. Metal Raptors will need to go 4-1 to try and take this out. So it's getting tired of doing.
Oh yes, it is getting so close. Both these factions have been so neck and neck, and it's only right now at this with this current bout in Echo where there's been a little bit of a gap between Elite TMs, but to be fair, there's really not much in it. As there really isn't. That's all it takes. All it would take is for in Master League to get a 4-1 in favor of Metal Raptors, and this could all turn the other way. So I'm very excited. I'm quite fond of Master League because obviously you see certain legendaries that come out, and also some mega evolutions that sometimes come out in Master League as well. That's always a bit exciting because you don't really get to see that in GBL Master League, or indeed in any official tournament format. So this is a time where you can play around with those mega Scizors. You can play around with potentially the Mega Charizards, or indeed all this other cool stuff, plus your favorite legendaries of choice as well. So this is where it all comes down to. It boils down to this. To be world champion, you need to dominate in Master League.
Yeah, the league that is often much forgotten and one of the hardest to fill on the factions roster as well. We can see the score now 16-14, with the Elite TMs only needing 2 more, the Metal Raptors needing a full 4 more. But we'll bring Trainer Rem back into the fold as we sort of head towards our final bout. One of these teams is about to become world champion, Trainer Rem, and it's he's been practicing his pose for hours. Just waiting to bring it out there.
The entire break.
But it worked well. It was good.
You kind of reminded me of, like, you know, that smoldering intensity phrase I'm struggling to remember the name of the film, but it looked really cool and like really like
Blue,
super posy. So I love it.
I appreciate it, Delian. Appreciate you, man.
Regardless, we are going to be going into the final bout of the World Championships here. Elite TMs only with 2 to go, and we're going to pass it right back. You've seen enough of me. We'll pass it right back to Rem and Adelian to finish out the Factions World Championships here. 5 battles, 2 competitors. Let's see how it goes.
Let's get it started. How's it going, Adelian? How you feeling?
Energized. I can't wait. I love Master League. I'm not going to say I'm amazingly good at it, but I do love it. I love to see some of those legendary Pokemon, the Mewtwo's, see the Dialgas, see all sorts of things. I think Master League is a very fun meta, and then throwing in a couple of megas just to make things even more interesting, something that that players won't necessarily be too used to fighting against, because you don't see megas all that much in Master League GBL. That adds a bit of excitement. It adds a bit of difference, a bit of spice, and I love it.
Very true. I've wanted to get into Master League for a while, but not having the resources has been making it very difficult. I just only recently maxed out my Dragonite along with my Shundo Gyarados. and a couple other things recently, but got a good number of hundos that I'm looking forward to building for Master League, just because my experience with it in the past, before XLs were a thing, was it like as soon as I had like my at least level 40 Pokemon powered up for it, it was a lot more fun. But I want to be able to run my Hundo Dialga, my Zashi and my Kyogre. It seems like it's a lot more centralized of a format, and that's what, like, but then when it comes to the factions bouts, you see a lot of the diversity in teams and certain people's play styles and how differently they play in Master League, and that's what I want to see in this upcoming bout.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, with Master League being a points-based meta as well, you can't just necessarily wade in with the best 3 or 6 Pokemon for Master League. I do feel there is an element of sacrifice to be made where, okay, if I'm going to be wanting to wade in with my Hundo maxed out best buddy Dialga, which of course, remember folks, if it's Master League, you should always have a best buddy Hundo Dialga, nothing more, nothing less. But you therefore may have to choose alternative Pokemon to bodyguard that Dialga rather than just going for the best of the best rest of the best Master League Pokemon to pair up with it. So we are just in the process of getting the final matchup set up, but I'm interested to see what if there are going to be any megas. I love seeing a good mega in the team, so I'm very excited to see that. What about you, Rem?
I'm very excited. If a mega is used, I don't know which one I want to see. Which one would you want to see the most?
Let's think. What would I like to see? I am a big fan of Mega Scizor. I think that's a cool looking one. It looks even better as a shiny when it's bright and green. What else? I've played around with Mega Abomasnow before. I've seen Mega Venusaurs be used as well, but all sorts of different megas are available now. In terms of, for those of you watching who have not played the Master League factions format before, you have 3 tiers, I believe, if memory serves, and you have 8 points with which to spend on those tiers. Some of you may be familiar in Great League with the concept of Cliffhanger that was developed by Ghost Stadium. So it's kind of similar to that concept, where the most meta picks in a format have higher point values, and you can't exceed more than 8 points in that in your team of 6. So that's how Master League tends to work, and therefore variety. You get a lot more variety, similar to how we had that with Echo Field as well, where you had certain things restricted for certain slots. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm interested to see what we've got for the teams now. So let's go ahead and get into it. You're good.
Yes.
You're good.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So let me see. Let me see if the rules are like this. Is there an S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier?
Yes, that sounds about right. So there will be. So I imagine, like, for example, Pokemon like Dialga will be in the S tier, whereas some of the more uncommon Pokemon, so like something like Mega Venusaur wouldn't be quite as high in terms of those points. So yeah, that's what they're having to work with and build those teams. For those of you watching, we are in the process of getting the teams set up on stream, so just please be patient and bear with us as they turn up now. We mentioned the Mega Scizor is indeed on Signal's side from Elite TMs, and no megas on I'm going to check if I make sure I pronounce this correctly. Is it Shagan Bora? Or maybe I should just go with Shagan. Maybe people in the chat can advise me on how best to pronounce without being rude on that front. But no megas on Shagan's side. But I do like the Florges. I think that's a very fun pick, and we've seen a lot of that in Master League Premier, haven't we?
We have. Let me see. We have Mega Scizor, Kyogre, Gyarados, Excadrill, Florges. I do need Florges for Master League. I need Florges. Yeah. It's super spammy, super impressive, and good for grabbing shields for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I'm interested to see what moveset will be on Reshiram as well, because that will be fun to see. You don't usually see that in Master League all that much. Maybe in a double dragon setup is normally where I often will see it in Master League GBL. But here it might be quite different. Also, it does have the potential to terrify that Mega Scizor out of the way, because the Mega Scizor hasn't got a bad matchup here against a lot of things. I'll also be interested to see if that Haxorus from Signal's side is going to be running its new Breaking Swipe Community Day move, because that might change the outcome of quite a few matches, with the exception of the matchup against Florges, because Haxorus really doesn't appreciate that.
I do think
So,
that Swampert in Master League is kind of interesting. We don't see much of it anymore since the meta developed into mostly legendaries, but in at least a choose six format, it has a place for it.
say that again. You cut out about at that point. Repeat that to me. Sorry.
Sorry, I was saying that Swampert usually you don't really see it in level 50 in Master League, but given the fact that it's in a choose six format, it definitely has more of a role here.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and normally, and the Mega is also available. I think Mega's available in fact in Factions Master League, but it's rated much higher than the conventional Swampert. But this is where Swampert's been added, because I think Shagan was a bit guarded about wanted to guard against the Excadrill that might potentially be in there. But it's a high risk strategy, because Signal is running a Gyarados there, which will wall the Swampert. Kyogre also is a straight upgrade compared to Swampert as well. So, and we don't know that Florges might be running Vine Whip for all we know. Highly unlikely, because Fairy Wind is indeed better in this matchup, but you never know. You never know. So we will be getting into the battles very imminently to find out who will finally take the crown as Silph Factions World Champions. Here we go.
Ooh, Excadrill into Reshiram. This is going to be a very dicey matchup, because if that Reshiram has Fire Fang, which I'm sure it does. Oh, it's Dragon Breath. Okay, that's a bit better. That's definitely a better matchup for the Excadrill.
Yeah, I mean, very impressed that Shagan is actually staying in, trying to get a catch onto the Giratina, but not managing it, and is responded to by Signale's Florges, which is a very strong matchup here. Although the the Giratina is launching the Shadow Sneak here onto Florges, which is going to do unresisted damage. Not the most high damaging move, but still respectable enough. And of course, the Shadow Claw, we know from in all leagues, Shadow Claw is one of the best moves to have as a fast move, but no shield, as Giratina is bulky enough to withstand a Moonblast. But this does a huge amount of damage nonetheless. Impressive here. But look at the fast move that Signali has on Florges, Rem. Spot something? So go ahead. Sorry, you go.
Sorry, yeah, Fairy Wind is just, it's so good for the fairies. I'm glad that they introduced it into Pogo, just because it gives fairies a better chance at getting out the charge moves than before. So it makes them more meta relevant for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And now there's a lot more. There's still a fair amount of energy on this Florges, but you can see Signali is looking to tap and perhaps switch into the Kyogre here. As the Reshiram comes back in, Reshiram will take neutral damage from the fairy type attacks from this Florges. Fire type resisting the fairies, but the dragon is taking super effective damage. So a neutral hit here. Disarming Voice does a respectable amount of damage though, and is able to potentially race to another one and get another Disarming Voice. But there is a beautiful catch by Shagan. Wow, absolutely sublime there. Rem, please take it away.
I do think that running both Drill Run and Earthquake is super good here, just because you usually expect to see Rock Slide on Excadrill. That's the baseline moveset. But Earthquake, especially with how strong Excadrill's attack is going to be doing a lot of damage to things that don't resist it at all. So, which is pretty much all of Shogun's team.
Yes, that's right. And this is, again, the benefit of the factions format, where you can just, oh, look, no shield on the superpower. Ooh, I wonder if he's looking to, I wonder if Signal is looking to farm down this Melmetal with the Kyogre, and here it comes out now. Boom, there it goes. 3 waterfalls, doesn't even get to another move. That is how powerful the waterfall is, and there is very little Reshiram can do here, because those Dragon Breaths, even though they do neutral damage, Kyogre is so bulky, it doesn't mind a few Dragon Breaths, and this Crunch goes shielded. And is there a debuff? There is a debuff though, so that might change things. Who knows?
Let's see. Let's see. I do think that what was I gonna say? Is that a Hundo? Is that a Shundo Kyogre?
Might just be, yeah. I don't think if you're. I think the thing is, if you're running in Master League, right, and you are a Master League specialist, you would have gone out to grind those hundos. You know, anything less than a hundo is just not good enough in Master League. That is what gives it a high barrier to entry. But it's still, but it means that everyone's going to be on the same level playing field if they put in the resources to get those hundos in for all these Pokemon. So Signali is taking it to 17-14. So this is really significant. This next match might decide it. If Signali wins the next match, Elite TMs will be your factions world champions. This is match point. This is the finals, the final bout. Metal Raptors need to win 4 in a row to stay in the game for this. So drum roll, please, for those of you in the chat. We are going into what might be the match that determines it all. Rem, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's do it, dude.
Let's go for this. Here comes the Battle 2. And Melmetal faces off against Mega Scizor. Rem, please feel free to take it away.
Oh, now this matchup, I still believe, depending on the moveset for Scizor, well, there is a swap out. I believe that they're going to throw Superpower and Dip as most Metal users do. And then we get a shield immediately. Now, it's just a determinant of what Shagun's going to swap into here.
Yes, I think that is a good question here. Yeah, swaps into the Giratina, which I think is sensible. However, the Excadrill has not revealed the Earthquake here, and here comes the Earthquake. I imagine Shagun's not going to shield this because he will think this will only be a drill run at. But here comes the Earthquake, and look how much damage it does, taking Giratina, one of the most bulkiest Pokemon, to just over half of its health. But here comes the Shadow Sneaks, and Excadrill is known to not be too strong. It's quite squishy, isn't it?
Very much so. I think we might go for double Earthquake here. Yeah, we're going to go straight for another Earthquake. The fact that Altered Giratina is so bulky as a maxed out Pokemon in Master League is just absolutely insane. That's a best buddy too. So this has been grinded for a long time. And let's see if Excadrill survives this last Shadow Sneak to farm down with one Mud Shot.
And this would be quite good because if it does survive, and it is able to beat the Giratina, but so those 2 Earthquakes doing close to 40% of Giratina Altered's health. It was just enough with the Mud Shots, but now this Melmetal can Thunder Shock down. You never thought you'd hear that. Thunder Shocking down an Excadrill? What is this?
Definitely possible though, given how squishy Excadrill is. Unfortunately, just missing the draw run, and now we're gonna have. Do we decide to shield up here? Kyogre is not gonna be hit for super effective other than Thunder Shock, but we do get off a Rock Slide here. Deals a decent amount of damage to Kyogre, and we're gonna get up to a Surf here. Are we gonna see a swap to catch the move? No swap. No swap
here.
yet.
I wonder if I think the thing is, on the one hand, the Mega Scizor isn't going to like dealing with Reshiram's fire attacks, but Reshiram's only carrying Overheat because we know there's a Dragon Breath variant. But also Signali, I don't think he has seen Shagun's Reshiram yet. So I wonder if that is. I wonder. Here comes the reveal, and now they both know exactly what's in the backline as Mega Scizor comes into the fray against this Reshiram.
And it's a simultaneous swap too, so that's going to be pretty huge. But Scizor having Fury Cutter and Night Slash doing so much damage, I'm wondering if he'll get a boost here and then force that let's say Kyogre Reshiram to shield.
Yes, in case there was a buff, in case there was a boost here, I think you have to shield this because you know Fusion Flare is the signature move of Reshiram and is going to absolutely annihilate Mega Scizor. So now it's really a race to get as many Night Slashes off before Reshiram before the Mega Scizor gets hit by another Fusion Flare. But wow.
It's rough. Just because they're both resisting each other's charge attacks, but now Mega Scizor doesn't have any shields left. So it's all determined of whether or not Signali can catch the move, which I don't believe is possible. Look at the switch timers. Yeah, unfortunately, the next one's coming off here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that for Signal's Mega Scizor, it's bye-bye from this point onwards, and there's not much left in the tank. This Kyogre is chipping away with Waterfall, but we know Dragon Breath does huge amount of damage. There is, I think Kyogre was able to get energy for a Surf, but not enough to not 2 Surfs that it can take out the Melmetal after the shield. So the superpower is enough to KO, and now Shagun Bora brings it to 1-1. So Signal was in match point, but we'll have to move to game 3 in order to try and secure the win for Elite TMs. For Shagan, he is playing out of his mind to try and keep Metal Raptors in the fray.
Absolutely amazing plays from both parties right there. I think what I like to see, I like to see how Signali's running that Excadrill. It seems like it's going to be able to add a lot of pressure, but the reason why Shagan brought back Giratina was to be able to tank or at least soak some damage. So I think in the next game, Signali should probably try to run both Florges and Excadrill, just because you're gonna want to have at least one strong answer for Giratina. And the fact that not Kyogre, Reshiram is running Dragon Breath, Excadrill is a much safer pick. You just have to watch out for Swampert for that Mamoswine's high horsepower, and for Melmetal's superpower.
Yes, absolutely. That is a very good assessment there. So we will now. So this next match is still match point in favor of Signal and Elite TMs, but it's possible for Shagan to win the next games and flip this over, but it is an uphill battle, all to play for both factions. And I suppose you would expect this at the World Championship, that it comes down to the wire. So for Signal, one more win to bring it home as we go into Game 3 to see another match point match in the factions World Championships.
Ooh, we have a pretty good lead here.
Yeah, quite right. Rem, please take it away.
Sorry, I do apologize. Let me see the drill run. Let me see if we do throw drill run immediately, or if we wait until Melmetal throws superpower.
No, I think it's waiting for Melmetal to throw first, and Melmetal does indeed do so. And I assume Signal's going to now see what he switches and decides to no shield and tank the superpower, because now he knows that his drill run will be enough to either KO or put it into farmable range with the mud shot. So let's see what happens here. And it is shield. It goes unshielded, but not before Melmetal is able to get another superpower off. Surely now you shield this if you're Signal, right? No shield. Wow, that is crazy. And now the Florges is coming in to try and farm down a Melmetal with Fairy Wind, I think. You don't see that every day. And now Reshiram coming in. This is a neutral matchup because Reshiram takes neutral damage from the Fairy type's move, but an immediate shield from Reshiram as Florges goes for the Moonblast here, I believe, which is a good call by Shagan's side to ensure that his Reshiram stays healthy, because that Moonblast would have hurt. Now, Shagan can go for the Fusion Flare here, which is going to do neutral damage, but it does a huge amount of damage because it's coming off the back of Reshiram. A wise shield by Signal's side to make sure that his Florges stays healthy. Rem, any thoughts so far?
Not so far. I do think that Dragon Breath on Reshiram is kind of rough here. As you can see, Shagan already puts up the shield to protect it from the Moonblast, and I'm wondering, because we resist both Dragon Breath and Crunch on Florges, so it's only an option of throwing straight Fusion Flare, which we shield up immediately.
Yes, and I think that's a sensible play here. So another shield comes in. Now both sides are shielders, so it's going to be a rush to get to those moves here, as now I think a Moonblast has been launched here. This would make sense in a no-shielded scenario to go for the high-damaging Moonblast, and look at how much damage that's done to the Reshiram. And now it's a race. Can Florges get to a Disarming Voice before the Fusion Flare? And it's a beautiful catch from the Disarming Voice onto the Giratina. Super effective damage, but it does mean the Fusion Flare from Reshiram stays alive to be used later on in the game, as Giratina tanks this Disarming Voice without too much trouble here. Wow, that was so impressive, Rem.
And I do think that, given that we have a Kyogre sitting in the back, we're gonna want to build up to another Moonblast just so we can store it, or maybe we just farm down here and
it is a catch. It's incredible. Signal knows that a move is going to be tossed and goes, you know what? I'll save this. I'm going to bring it. Now the Kyogre comes in. It's probably able to waterfall down its rate, and we are getting one step closer. And here we are. Signal has secured the win, and Elite TMs are your factions world champions. Wow!
Oh my gosh,
what
this
have
is
we
insane.
witnessed? What have we
Like,
witnessed there? Beautiful 2 catches there, 2 excellent plays, but ultimately only one can win. And Elite TMs have secured their name in the Silph history books. Just before the Silph Arena sadly closes, they are making sure that their names are written in history forever as the faction's world champions. But of course, let's not forget the Metal Raptors were the runner-ups, because look at the scoreline. It's 18-15. That is super close. They didn't make it. They didn't make it easy at all for Elite TMs. So congratulations to Elite TMs. Commiserations, but very worthy opponents in the Metal Raptors there. And that, honestly, I don't know about you, Ren, but I feel honoured to have witnessed this. And there are still 2 more games, I believe, that we can see. We can see how close the Metal Raptors won it, brought it to the scoreline. So maybe it's worth having a look at those. Just because why not? Why not? Why
why
don't we
not?
do them?
We got to watch
Why
the
not?
rest of them. And
Yeah.
also the fact that I'm sure that both trainers were feeling super anxious in that last battle. Like the adrenaline must have been pumping, their minds racing, thinking of every scenario to be able to clutch the game. It was
Yes.
already difficult to go with, but congratulations, man. Like that game was super difficult to come back from.
Yes, oh, absolutely. So we're going to go into game 4 for those of you watching. I appreciate for those of you who are fans of the Metal Raptors. I know they're an Indian-based faction, and it's very late in the evening for some of you watching from India. So appreciate if bedtimes are a calling. But for those of you who are able to, stay up, there are more matches to come. So I believe game 4 for this match from Signal versus Shagan ended up with a def win. So I don't know if we will end up showing that, but either way, we'll still have game 5 to show if that is indeed the case, and then we can get that final scoreline. We're just going to waiting for clarity from the powers that be, from Magical Miss Mystic, as to reflect on that scoreline, and then we will we will show you that on stream very, very soon. So there will be another match to see, so don't go anywhere unless, of course, you need to go to sleep, in which case, fair enough. I think, actually, what time is it for you over in the US, Rem?
It is only 5:35.
Oh, okay, so it's not too bad. Whereas for me, it's 10:35 here in the UK, and I imagine for those in India, I think India is maybe, if memory serves, I think maybe 5 or 6 hours, or maybe 5 hours 30, somewhere in that range of 5-6 hours ahead of the UK. I'm going to hazard a guess. So they are up very late to watch this. As we now see the next game coming in, I think we can see Mama Swine versus an Excadrill there. And here comes the match. Now it's all loaded up, and Excadrill. So we know here Excadrill with Earthquake can be quite threatening to Mammoth Swine, but Mammoth Swine is able to get the high horsepower, which does KO. But Mammoth Swine looking to go for the Avalanche first, which will do a respectable amount of damage onto the Excadrill anyway. You may not even need high horsepower at this point. What do you think?
I think honestly, like Earthquake, it does a lot more damage, and I understand exactly why Shagan shielded up here, just because Mamoswine with energy is almost like Frostlass with energy in Master League, at least. Being able to get off the Avalanche and high horsepower, it's so hard to call. But luckily, Signali has Kyogre waiting to farm it down. Let's see how much damage the high horsepower does to Kyogre, because you don't have to shield it up; you can still farm down. But I want to see how much it does to the Kyogre.
You know what? That is a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage to quite a bulky Pokemon, as Waterfall does chip away at the Mamoswine. So that is really impressive. Now an Avalanche. Now I wonder if Signal's been counting well here, and he does, and he recognizes this as an Avalanche. No shield, the right call by Signal here. And now it's a farm down, and let's see what comes in. You can see Signal's desperately trying to swap out into his Florges, sorry. Excuse me.
And even here, I think that like because Moonblast is stab, it's still resisted by steel types, but I honestly don't know how this matchup goes. But I'm wondering if with a debuff, even then, maybe Florges being 2 shielded could still beat a Melmetal, but it's still super bulky in this meta, so I want to see how this matchup goes. Daily, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. No, that's my fault. My headphones were muted. Apologies for that. So we can see that the debuff there from Mel Metal's attack will mean that Florges has a much better time here. But even so, choosing to shield the rock slide in order to stay as healthy as possible, do you reckon that Signal's trying to fish for more debuffs with Disarming Voice rather than going for the Moonblast? I wonder.
Fishing for more debuffs for sure, and I think that I think Signal is probably going to want to swap out a little bit, maybe bank some energy. But then the Kyogre is getting close to a Blizzard as well, so it might get a shield off of the Giratina at some point.
Yeah, that'd be quite nice. Although there's a no shield here, and I think Moonblast at this range would KO the Mel Metal despite the resistance. So here it comes, and it does. Oh, it doesn't KO. It's very close though, and there's an instant swap into the Giratina, and now this is a problem because this Giratina can tank a move, and also with the shield still being in play, Kyogre can't eliminate the Giratina with Blizzard, and I think that's the problem. So we're at this situation where Signal's not really got enough health to play around too much, having to shield a Dragon Claw onto his Fairy type, which is not a good place to be.
Not at all. Not at all. You're getting closer, but unfortunately, the next Dragon Claw comes out, and that's what Ultra Giratina is all about. Spammy and bulky. You can't do much against it once you're low on HP and have no shields.
Yes, absolutely. And there goes the Shadow Claw taking out the Florges, and then the Kyogre is still there. Might be able to get to a Blizzard, but it would be showboating at this point. Does try to launch it, but not before the Shadow Claw does take it. Sorry, not Shadow Claw. The Dragon Claw is launched first and takes it out, ensuring that Shagun gets at an additional win. Just getting reports as well that there was a def win in Game 4 in favor of Signal, which is why his scoreline has now gone to 3. So the final matchup, final score for the Master League bout for the World Championship finals ended with 3-2 in favor of Signal, meaning Elite TMs win by 19 wins to 16 from the Metal Raptors. Really, really close considering, as I said, these were best of 5. Wow.
Master League, given the fact that most players play in Great League and Ultra League, I highly commend any Master League players who know the meta through and through and know every single matchup, any core that works well together, and just being able to at least catch a move on time in Master League. Because for me, that's one of my lower points, not definitely not one of my stronger points, but that's why again I commend players who take the time to learn all the matchups for Master League and build those Pokemon as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we can see the final scorecard there. Now, bear in mind, and it's a very good point made by Nexusilia in the chat about how close it was to being what the 18-17, or kind of the equivalent in best of 3 factions to like an 11-10 matchup. Just how close that was, because in a best of 5, going close to 19-16 shows that the matchups were very close. It was very close battle between 2 stellar factions. And I think for Metal Raptors, they should be very proud of how far they've got. Any other day, it could be in their favor. And I think Steve mentioned that in their previous interaction, the Metal Raptors won by 11-10, if that's right. So I see a nod there in the background from Steve, so that's a nod of approval. But yeah, final scorelines there for all to see. So Elite TMs winning in both Echo Fields, one of the Pandemoniums and Master League, and then falling short against the Metal Raptors in Great League, Ultra League, and of course Pandemonium as well. So congratulations to Elite TMs. I don't know if Steve is going to come back onto the stream and we can see if you have any thoughts.
Oh, look, it's been an incredibly well-played set all the way through. And I mean, look, best of 5s, like 5 games is so long. Like some of these guys with, especially once you get to this level, you're on these Discord calls with all your faction mates, you're sort of all planning about what teams, like sometimes these things can go for an hour, just like planning each line. And like, you know, and a lot of them sort of go back to back to back, like everyone's sort of lined up to play in these like one big sessions. And so just the dedication and the skill has really been on display through this entire stream. And so I'm really like a massive, obviously huge congratulations to the Elite TMs for being the season 2 and the forever factions world champions, because they've done really an incredible job there. But the Metal Raptors, massive shout out, not only for performing incredibly well and again beating the Elite TMs before, winning their group stage in the world championships and coming all the way through to the final 2, but also for, you know, repping that APAC, sort of telling telling everyone on Twitter that was sort of, APAC's okay. Really sort of showing them APAC's definitely got the stuff, able to take out a lot of really, really strong factions along the way. They definitely sort of didn't have it easy. Actually taking out probably the favourite to win APAC faction, Delhi Darmenitans as well, sort of 2 bouts ago, as well as the Northeast Battlers, HK's Hank. Like, they did some really, really impressive stuff, and it was really anyone's game coming into sort of this back end. So just to sort of like shout out the individuals, like sort of on the, because of course they have 7 people battling, but the 3 people didn't battle this week. So from the Elite TMs, massive shout out also to Hilda Clash, Ferrickster, and also to Nikus on their team as well, who are also all competed as a part of like during the World Championship sort of format as well. And of course with the Metal Raptors, who the 3 players who didn't play were Hitsugino Shon, Woot Kid, and Ura Ama, all really strong competitors as well, who have helped out. Nikus, Salty IRL has just dropped in the chat both Nikus and Nice Us. So now I have absolutely no idea. That has been absolutely no help at all. But regardless, massive shout out to them for sure for competing at a really high level as well. But I mean, that's it. That is factions all wrapped up. Well, actually, tomorrow there's going to be a stream over on the Poke Battle Network for the 3rd versus 4th place matchup. And I've been told that the teams are definitely worth taking a look at. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. So worth checking out for sure. And I think that's at 6 p.m. PT is what I have in my head. If I remember that correctly, can definitely fact check that for sure. But before we head off into the sunset with Elite TMs carrying their trophies away towards the Yokohama World Championships in 2 weeks, any words before we go? Rem, thanks for coming out.
Of course. I had a great time, and I always love watching the battles, especially from how many different high skill players there are. I just love watching how people play, and I love people playing to their potential, like saying, knowing that everybody knows exactly how certain matchups go, what teams they need to build in order to beat their opponent, how they're going to overcome certain obstacles. I just love watching it. It's very inspirational.
No, absolutely. And Adelian, thanks for coming on as well. Of course.
No, it's my absolute pleasure, and want to just highlight for those of you still watching who haven't quite gone to sleep yet, that just because one door closes, and sadly with the Silph Arena coming to a close very imminently, I want to obviously highlight the hashtag thank you Silph for everything that the organization has brought to us. It's been primarily responsible for the communities that I lead here in London and in Manchester and elsewhere across the UK. It has been the forefather that has brought the official circuit to Pokemon Go for competitive aspects as well. And of course, don't forget, when just because the Silph Arena may be closing, that doesn't mean that other platforms are not going to spring up in due course. So do keep an eye out on Zygarden and some of the other platforms that are being discussed as well. If you want any details, I'm sure Steve, myself, and many others will be keen to give you more details off stream. And most of all, just remember that the best thing about this game is of course for me the battling, but most importantly the in-person interactions that you have off the back of it as well. So enjoy the game, go on those routes when they come to you, and then hopefully we'll meet each other sometime in person at a GoFest, or perhaps at a regional championship very soon.
Absolutely. It's a nice note to end on. This is a massive shout out to Silph Arena, because again, this is like, I know we sort of closed things out with the Silph Arena solo player world championships on this weekend just gone, but of course this is sort of another note to sort of end things on as well. And it really shows the talent. No one was this good at Pokemon Go PvP when Silph Arena started, so it's definitely been a real journey, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of. So of course, thank you to our casters, thank you to Miss Mystic for running production in the background, and of course a shout out as well to Nightwing for his support in sort of getting everything together as well. And thank you for watching, for coming along. I mean, I feel like a large number of you have gone to bed, so thank you also to the APAC players for staying up. Much appreciated. Shout out India for sure for that 3 a.m. stay up. So yeah, thanks guys, and thanks to the Elite TMs and the Metal Raptors for sharing their footage as well. So with that said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe one. But thank you, Silph, for everything that you've done. and we'll see you wherever we are next, I suppose.